in both. The Patriots are sending quarterback Joe Milton and a 7th to the Cowboys for a 5th in this year's draft. Milton did make his debut in the final game of last year's regular season against the Bills. He did throw for over 200 yards and had 2 total touchdowns. Alexander Ovechkin, he is 3 goals away from passing Wayne Gretzky to become the all-time leading goal scorer in the NHL following last night. Capitals are off, though, until tomorrow when they host Chicago. Sabres, they continue their lengthy break this week. They next play Saturday when they host Tampa. But today, 9 total games, some notables, 2 games at 7. Canadiens host Boston, and Ottawa has the Lightning in town. And then 7:30, the Avalanche are in Columbus versus the Blue Jackets. Game 3 of a 6-game road series for the Bisons is tonight in Memphis, 7:45. You can listen to that over on our sister station, The Bet 1520. The Yankees are also in action tonight. They are looking to avoid getting swept by Arizona. Game time just after 7. And then up at our website, WGR550.com. In the lead-up to the 2025 NFL Draft, Howard Simon and Locked On Bills host Joe Marino will be posting a number of player profiles at a number of positions. First up, it is the cornerbacks. Trey Amos of Ole Miss and Siobhan Ravel of ECU are already up. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I don't think Michael's ever done drugs.
It's Mike Schopp.
I don't know if anyone's ever offered him any.
Let's go over some of the symptoms of marijuana use, shall we? You tell me who this sounds like.
It's the Bulldog.
Slow moving, inattentive, dull, constantly snacking, shows a lack of motivation.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog on WGR Sports Radio 550.
Oh, hello. Just over here looking at houses.
In the Orchard Park area?
Yeah, I was thinking about Orchard Park this time.
Yeah.
I was thinking about, So, do you get the framed jerseys with this house, or those go with James Cook? Is that what happens? Those are not good. They're not part of the house.
I would imagine he would take those with us. If I were him, I would leave behind the entertainment systems in a few of the rooms with the cords all hanging bare on the wall.
And I took that very personally.
What are you doing?
I don't even.
What are you doing?
I have that affliction, if you want to call it something like that, and I don't even see them. I took a picture. I tweeted a picture once of whatever was on TV, or Margot watching TV or something, and a couple people said that. They pointed out to me, "Oh my God, the cords!" And I never even noticed them.
Yeah,
my friends probably do and don't say anything. They come over and watch the Super Bowl.
I mean, I guess it depends on if you are, how far you've gone to eradicate that problem. Like I didn't do anything like myself to make that happen, but. Oh my God! Quite a few years ago now, we had a changeover in the house. Internet and everything changed. New TVs, new gear, new everything. And I had the folks from the Advantage come do that, and they said, "Well, we could put all the." The receiver and the Blu-ray and everything else, everything will go in the basement, and we'll just run, you just find a spot in the basement right below where it's going to be in the living room, and we'll run the stuff up through the wall, and it's no problem.
Outdated technology draft.
And I'm like, okay, go ahead and do that. So now, that's my deal. I mean, I didn't do any of it myself, but it was done.
Well,
and I'm not a $5 million running back. I mean, James Cook, get some people to help you out. Get the Geek Squad out there and just get the hookup.
Listen, not everybody minds. I mean, look, these are pictures of a house that you're selling. No house has ever been cleaner or looked better than on those pictures. In those pictures, like that. That's when you go the absolute distance.
Which is why the first thing I noticed was the cords hanging from the TVs.
And it's so funny that I didn't even notice them at all, because I'm looking at the pictures. I'm looking at the pictures right now again, and there's cords. It looks perfectly clean and perfect. And okay, right. That last one, the cords are all over the place.
To me, it looks like someone just got robbed.
Oh no!
Like that's what it looks like to
Someone,
me.
James,
someone
Jimbo,
someone just got robbed. Like,
Jimbo. Somebody tell Jimbo. This one picture is especially a problem. I didn't know, like the screenshot is of, a beach in Hawaii or something on both TVs in separate pictures. And so some thought went into that. Mm-hmm. The real Cook doesn't probably do any of this.
I would think not.
The agent does some of it, a staff of people, and they thought, let's put a Hawaiian beach picture on the TV in both rooms. One has like orangey sort of walls and wood floors, and the other has like maybe a laminate floor and gray walls. But it's the same shot.
I think you put that shot on the TV to try to draw attention away from the cords dangling down from the TV. If you just have a blank screen there, you're probably more likely to notice the cords. Although, for me, it didn't even matter. I didn't even notice what was on the screens because all I saw was the cords.
So funny. It's a big enough house where he's got a museum. It's a big enough house where you don't need that picture anyway. He's got framed photos on the floor, and then the cords gate. The cords are all over the place. Just where's a bedroom? Where's a bathroom? Maybe this is just partial.
Yeah, I'm guessing that there's a more extensive listing with more photos because like that right there, based on the photos that are there, that's not a house I'm renting if I'm traveling to Buffalo and it's available on Vrbo or something. Like I need more. What are you hiding if you're not showing me more than just that? So I would guess if you're actually, I'm assuming he's actually selling the house, that there's more pictures available to drum up interest.
Do you think? I wonder if an experienced real estate expert, that's redundant, I guess. I wonder if somebody like really knowledgeable about this kind of thing would have an opinion about how maybe fast this came together. Like the cords, would somebody in real estate be like, yeah, never, no cords ever, because of people like you?
Yeah.
Are you most people, am I?
You might be better off.
Who's most people?
I don't know. And like, if I'd never had this experience 15 years ago or whenever it was, and I still had, maybe I would be like you. But I'm not. I got lucky. They came and did that, and I've not had any cords hanging out, so I managed to avoid it.
No, but I was going to say before, I do think you're the type who would be bothered by that.
Oh, yeah.
So with or without what your own experience was.
That's right. But if I were looking at it every day, then I might be, like you, immune to noticing it in a photograph.
Maybe.
But it also might be the kind of thing that if they hadn't done that, I would have found a way to do it because it would drive me crazy every second I was sitting in front of my TV. That's what you're saying. Like I am like that. Definitely guilty. An experienced real estate person might say, you know what? Why don't you just unplug that, roll it up in a twist tie, and tuck it behind the TV? Better. Like nobody's going to look at that photo and notice, oh, hey, the TV's not plugged in anywhere.
Or even just don't bother putting the TV on anyway.
Because what you might think, what you might think is, well, that's a TV hanging on the wall. It's not on. Well, and I don't see a plug. Well, that's because it's in the wall, like Bulldog. It's hidden. So just roll it up. Don't worry. You're better off having the cord rolled up and the TV black than having the picture of Hawaii and the cords hanging down there.
I think you might speak for a lot of people on that.
It's just sloppy, is all. It's just a sloppy look.
I am genuinely curious to know if who is most people here. Are people out there just obsessed with making sure cords are not hanging from their flat screen wall-mounted televisions, or who cares? I might put a poll up on that.
I would like to see a poll because I would absolutely cop to being a weirdo about stuff like that, to the extent that when I'm working at home and I'm sitting there in that music room and they've got Leo's got an amp and we got a spare amp and I've got my amp and there's boards of effects pedals and there's a lot of wires around, and in particular Leo's guitar cable will often be, because he's up there more often than I am playing, and his cord is just sort of it's unkempt. It's just lying. It's in the, it's in the room. It's not a problem. But I'll sit down to start the show during this segment, 3:00, and I'll look around the room and I'll notice his cord all askew. And we get to 3:25 and hit a break. And if I don't have a Window Nation spot, I get up and I go over there and I coil that cord up. I just it looks very neat like mine, and it's just like, so I'm a bit.
Do you do
I'm a bit of a wacko?
Do you do the thing with the extension cord where you like sort of wrap it around your elbow so it's sort of perfect?
Absolutely. Yes.
Is that important to do, or is that also like an appearance thing?
It is. That is very functional to me. Like if you've got like one of those orange 100-foot extension cords, right? And
imagine
you don't keep it neatly stored when you go to use it. It's all knotted up.
I know, but it's never not worked. Like I have one of those for my snowblower.
Oh, sure, it's going to work. But
yeah, so why do I need to wrap it around my arm?
Well, because for your snowblower, it's just plugged into the wall, and then you plug it into the snowblower, and you need about 6 feet of cord, right?
Well, it's more like 30, but
oh, okay,
because it's outside and the plug is back in my garage.
All right. I just, when I used to use an electric string trimmer, say, for my lawn, and that cord would be a real pain in the butt to keep while you're working, it would get knotted up. So I'd like to keep it clean. So, yes, I'm very fastidious about my
That's
cords.
the word I wanted earlier, and I couldn't think of it. Fastidious. Does it ever when we were trading equipment, working at home more often, did it ever bother you?
I judge you every time on how this stuff comes back to me.
Because it's never neat.
No, absolutely.
I would think you would.
Yeah.
I would think you would.
And Jeremy was the same way when we were very early in the pandemic. We were sharing a rig, and since we both have come to have our own, thanks to the station, at our houses, and same thing. And, I wouldn't, oh my God! But it just like a little bit. Oh yeah, of course. This stuff is all just
because you immediately look at it and without thinking about it, it wasn't you that put it away. Right. Someone else used this last because it is not.
Although I don't know how very neat I've been about it either. When I bring it to you, I don't think it's much better, honestly.
But it's going to be better.
It's a hard set of equipment to really keep from getting tangled up, I would say. The way we carry it around, but anyway.
All right.
But yes, I have judged my coworkers harshly about that. Internally, just like, oh man, come on.
So, do you have, as we finally get to the point here, do you have the same sort of powers when it comes to real estate here, trying to judge around the draft whether somebody's for real? Is listing your house something you might do anyway? I mean, of course it can be.
Sure.
Is listing your house something you might do anyway in this situation because, he's going to make a lot more money this year than he has been making. Like isn't 5.4 about the number, and isn't that maybe close to what he's made to date?
Yeah, I'd have to look, but I that might be right.
I think the number goes pretty kind of way up this year for him.
Okay.
Maybe triple. I'll look too. But if that's your situation, a lot of people would get a 3x pay raise, and the house would be on the market the next day.
Right.
Right. I mean, you're buying your new house the next day. So
yeah. So look, it could be. I know that what how we react to that is, oh, here we go. This is another step into the divorce of James Cook and the Buffalo Bills. It could be a sign that he's close to signing a massive extension. Like
it's
you're
not
saying.
A huge house.
That's right. So it could be that. I doubt that it is because of the way Brandon Beane sounds. So I would suspect. Could there be real reasons? Of course. Whatever. Maybe he realizes. His situation's going to change either way.
Yep.
And I might as well get busy doing this so I don't have to deal with it in a year even, right? Because if he just plays out this year and they let him go, then he'd need to find a new place to live in a new city anyway. So get busy selling the house. You can find yourself a condo. And it's not, like you said, it's not like some big ostentatious property.
It's 2,000 square feet.
Yeah. So, maybe you want to get to something more convenient that you don't own, that you're renting while you're in limbo. And then if things come together here, you can always pivot to a bigger, nicer house here, or one in Los Angeles or wherever you end up going.
All right, so 1 to 10, this is how much of a sign of going another step in that direction. I mean, we wouldn't know if he
1 to 10. I'm going to say it's a 5.
All right, well that's worth talking. A 5 is worth talking about.
I think so. Yeah, I'm not dismissing it as absolutely nothing.
You don't think it's ridiculous to consider it a possible indicator?
No, not for someone who has used social media the way he has already this offseason. I feel like that's, it might even be a thing, like if you go to this length with your agent, with your brother, with whatever, whoever you trust, you're sitting down mapping out a game plan. Like assuming the eyeball emojis on the 15 million to begin with wasn't just a temperamental, like just a reaction, that it was there's some plan behind it. Having it get out that your house is up for sale might be the logical next step, considering how Brandon Beane sounded on the weekend when he talked about it. So, like, okay, we've done the 15 million, we've done people know where we stand. Okay, they've answered back with no contract negotiations on the horizon or words to that effect. What do we do now? Put the house on the market.
Someone find out if Benford's house is up. Because he jumped up in pay pretty good.
Just a bit, yeah.
Shakir, can I buy his house? All of them. If Cook is the only one, if all the extended guys, they're not selling their houses, but Cook is.
Yep.
I don't know. We talked about, was it yesterday, the possibility of a trade? Yeah. And I think it's really tough. I got to, and as we talked, thinking that a third-round pick is kind of the only round that I think might work. The Bills happen to not have a third-round pick, if it matters. I think like a higher pick, why would any team do that in a rich running back draft? I think a lower pick, why would the Bills do it? He is under contract. It's not like, he has a foot out the door or anything like that yet. Well, he might, but you know what I mean? So I think a team could be like, this is a known commodity, and it's probably a team playing to win as he is 1 year left on his deal. I think even if it's as low as a third-round pick, that still probably comes with a new contract for him. Like if you're making that deal, not always. I mean, Amari Cooper was a third-round pick mid-season, and that wasn't that. Still, though, I think the team usually, when the Bills traded for McCoy...
The age of the player there matters. I think Cooper being near 30 and Cook being the age he is. I would assume if you are trading for that player, giving up any kind of an asset at all, beyond just a throwaway seventh rounder or something, that, you're doing it because you like this player and you want to satisfy his demands. You're not trading for him to have him become your problem. You're trading for him to solve his problem for him.
Right.
And the Bills.
And then the Bills use the pick on Dylan Sampson.
Sure.
And, wheels up.
Just sort of keep going.
I mean, I don't hate it.
Yeah.
I don't hate it.
The first thought I had when I saw this last night was, is it possible? Like, I never saw if there were follow-up questions for Beane when he talked about Cook. What I've assumed is that if there were, I would have seen those responses. And maybe it's just too early to venture down that road to ask Beane, like, how do you think they feel? Like, do you have an idea of where they stand with how you're approaching this? Have they asked for a trade? Would you, things like that. But the first thing I thought was they've agreed to let him look for a trade. He's putting his house on the market because they told him, hey, go ahead, see if you can find something out there. We'll listen. I have no idea if that's happened, but it is a thing that happens in these scenarios sometimes.
How would this idea sound to the other team? Like, do I have to know if there's a team that has multiple third-round picks? Because I think I keep coming back to the same point. Well, it's actually this and another thing. The volume of talented running backs here, which is not the case every year, would make me almost definitely not want to do this if I were another team. And then it's the macro why I'm trading for a running back. Tell me about why am I, and then extending them. Like, why am I doing that? Is this guy that good? Different situation, but I've just thought of it because they're brothers. Like when Dalvin Cook needed, a new contract and everybody was talking about him all the time, even in terms of the Bills, when the Bills already had James Cook, every single time, every step of the way, I thought it was ridiculous. Like, just why do it? Why pay him? Running back this age, PFF doesn't like him. I mean, there's just like no reason to need. And then who does it? The Jets, of course.
Right.
Like the Jets with Breece Hall on the team, even go ahead and sign Dalvin Cook. So
at least they just signed him. They didn't.
That wasn't a big contract, right?
Right. They didn't trade for him. They didn't give up an asset for him. But yeah, I'm
they
in the
gave
same.
Le'Veon Bell the big contract.
Right. I'm in the same place as you with that. Like I guess I want to say for the Bills' sake, I would hope that somebody wants to trade for him if that's where we're headed, but I wouldn't want my team to do it if I even need to say that.
How do you think?
I've never wanted the Bills to do that, and so if somebody wants to do that for them, I would consider it a favor.
I know, like, it's maybe funny me asking you this because, the fans tell us how they feel. How would it go over? How controversial is it? The money is a thing. Like, you're not doing it if he's not angling, to the extent that he is for a new deal, that you're not even thinking about this.
I saw a clip because, we're streaming on YouTube and on the Twitch. I saw a clip from the morning show. Jeremy put up a poll about this third round pick. I think he said high third round pick if it matters but how would fans feel about the Bills doing that? Like somebody calls and tells Brandon Beane, we'll give you pick 68 or whatever. Would you do it? And the poll was split down the middle.
Really?
At the time he was talking about it. So I'm inclined to think that is maybe telling. It's a Twitter poll, but I'll bet it would be close. There's definitely people, we don't hear from them a lot, but I think there's definitely people that feel like they want to push back against us with the running backs don't matter, don't pay them, all that stuff. And I think that's a significant portion of the fan base. And the guy had a monster year. And we had a guy who called us yesterday. It's like, who else is dangerous on this offense besides Josh? Like, who's the next guy? And I guess Cook is the answer.
By default.
Right. So I think because of that, I think you'd have a split. I think enough people have realized that you don't have to pay running backs top of market deals and that you can replace that production. I mean, not 100% of the time, but you should have a pretty decent success rate. If your team is good, your line is good, your quarterback is great, you should be able to plug and play a running back that you draft on Saturday.
Well, that is, even to me, I think that still is saying a lot. Pass protection is often the hang-up with rookie running backs, and we never talk about that. And in fantasy, we never care about it. It's just like you don't want to forget about. You don't want to discount that because if you draft any, I don't know if it's Genty, you draft any running back, and if he can't hold up against a blitz on third down, you have a problem.
Well, the guy they would be drafting in this hypothetical scenario would be replacing a guy who comes off the field
that's right.
In part because they don't trust him to do that job either.
Fair point. That's right. And they also have Davis and they have Ty Johnson who've been on the team.
Right.
If they were to do it, I think I have to say that I would vote yes because of everything. I think I would have to say it. And you know what? To anybody who would vote no, just remember this too. They traded Stephon Diggs last year for a future draft pick that they did not spend on anybody to help them win a Super Bowl. And maybe you think, well, they didn't win one. Maybe you would get, but, like that. Mm-hmm. But if it's a question of like what the Bills have the nerve or anything like that, you've got a good player on a good team trading for a pick, the knee-jerk reaction to that would be why? Why do you need to do that? Tyreek, these trades. Yeah, why do you need to do it? And look, I mean, if you want to use Tyreek too, I mean, they kind of got away with it.
Yeah,
it didn't really backfire.
The thing that is a bit of a fly in the ointment here in that scenario, and it hinges on whether whether we can trust, whether they can trust that Cook is going to show up and give them last year again, right? And by that I don't mean 18 touchdowns. I just mean do the work,
1,000 yards,
and just do your job to the very best of your ability. And if they trust that he will do that, they can let him walk after next year and get a third-round compensatory pick. It's they don't even need to make the trade. So it really, to me, could come down to how much they fear, if at all, a disruption from him. Are they worried he's going to be a problem in May and June and even into August, and who knows, God forbid, September, when the games start to count? Then you might want to act sooner. But if you're worried about protecting an asset, like getting something, not letting him go for nothing, the way the league has it laid out for you, you don't even have to worry about that much, because you'll get compensated if he leaves and signs a big free agent deal.
Well, I would give the Bills the benefit of the doubt if they were to do that, and I think I would even be excited about it, because that pick is going to be a running back if it's the pick 68, which, by the way, is owned by the Raiders, whose running back room right now is Raheem Mostert. So maybe 68's a good number. 803-0550 for your calls. Matt Harmon today, receptionperception.com. Hope to hear from you. We won't just talk about James Cook all day. We talk about him a lot, but it's never all day. So stay tuned, find out. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
would be wise to look in round 3 and look in early round 4 and see, okay, can we continue to add players to this room? And okay, let's give it another shot. But you have to remember, you have Ty Johnson you want to get touches to. Great young player. You have Ray Davis you want to get touches to. Interesting young player. And James Cook is going to demand touches, whether he's on an extension or on the current contract next year. So there's not a lot of room left to feed another guy.
Yeah.
And so I'll be curious to see how they handle their room. Because as it's constructed right now, it's great. If you add to it, to me, that indicates, they see a future without James Cook.
Ben Solak, now with ESPN. That's how you feel. You said yesterday, why would they draft one unless they thought Cook was maybe on his way out?
Yep.
I think they could justify it either way because of the talent. Even on, a late round pick might be somebody that deserves to play. If that means that would have to be at someone's expense, but I wouldn't want to rule that out. ESPN, Mike Clay today, I liked this. I just completed the annual purge, he tweets, of the ESPN fantasy football player database. And a famed cup of coffee draft eligible Bills legend was on this list. Corey Davis. Remember when we were talking about Corey Davis? That was last year, right? Yeah.
If you say so.
Because last year was every day there was a new signing or rumor about the wide receivers and MVS and Claypool and Amler and all these guys.
I'm over here trying to remember if there was a time when we actually really thought Corey Davis was going to join the Bills, the way you said that. I was thinking you were heading towards Antonio Brown again when you brought up the cup of coffee draft.
Yeah. Who got closer to be – Brown got closer to being a Bill.
I think that's probably right, yeah.
Davis was that the Bills had – reached out to him, and then I think it was even maybe Bean or somebody who had said he had decided to retire. I think there was maybe it wasn't Bean, but it went like that.
Yeah.
Duke Johnson was also sadly purged from the ESPN fantasy football database today.
I saw our buddy Ian Hartitz. He must have been a part of the Duke Johnson hive that you were also a card-carrying member of.
He's the president.
Okay, that explains it.
His underdog name is Free Duke Johnson.
Okay, well, there you are then. Right.
Yeah, no, he's the leader.
Yeah.
I probably got to where I got because of him.
Yeah.
He is the all-time leading rusher at the University of Miami. Still, I think. Duke Johnson. And the all-time leading receiver.
Did you know that Alex Van Pelt broke all of Dan Marino's records at Pitt?
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
I did know that. The all-time leading receiver at Miami is in this draft. Restrepo. I think he is the number. I think he's above Michael Irvin and all those guys. And this guy ran a 4.9 at the pro day, and everybody reacted to that.
Wait, a receiver?
Yes, last week at Miami's pro day. So Cam Ward and Restrepo. I mean, he's like around a 10 to 15 ranked receiver, or he was. So he runs a 4.9. It's not the combine; it's pro day. So there's a range of hand times. That's about where he came in. And
was he tied to a teammate in like a 3-legged race like you'd have at a barbecue or something? Like, how did he run a 4.9?
I don't know, but he did. And then everybody said, well, why did you run? Why would you run if that's how slow you are? But then the next day he tweeted he had a hamstring pull or something, and he decided to run anyway, to run with it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, does that make any sense? I mean, I'm not saying it's not to be believed. But if you were lame, why would you put it? You would know.
Yeah, right.
You would feel it. You would know.
You, I guess, want to hope that the teams in attendance appreciate, first of all, recognize that you're ill or ailing, whatever, not ill, but you have an injury that's impacting this, and they respect that you still tried to gut it out and put a time up anyways. Yep. Right? You probably want to have some faith. They've watched you play. They know you're not really a 4.9 40 guy. But a lot of guys I think in that situation would say, I'm not prepared to run. But this is like the last chance to do it. Did he not run at the combine?
I think that's right.
Okay. Then I think all of that adds up to, all right, I'll just try to suck it up and get through it. And hopefully it doesn't ding me too hard.
I hope I remember right seeing that he's the all-time leading receiver because he had 200 catches 2,800 yards for his career. It's parts of 5 seasons.
Maybe there's some team out there like Brandon Beane was with Gabe Davis that was rooting for him to run slow and is thrilled because they love him. They're going to squat on him and they think they can get him in the 3rd round or something.
Yes.
So that'll work. I'm distracted over here by an Ian Rappaport tweet that I just saw.
Okay, I don't know it.
Sources. The Raiders and quarterback Geno Smith have agreed to terms on a new deal to better compensate him for his play after the blockbuster trade.
Oh, outrageous. Blockbuster trade.
Blockbuster trade.
Rappaport can't help himself.
It was a 3rd-round pick for journeyman Geno Smith. Blockbuster trade? I mean, he's fine. He might be the definition of fine, in my opinion, for a quarterback. He's fine.
He's good.
He's fine.
He's better than fine.
I don't know. Blockbuster trade, 3rd-round pick. Like, I need 6 pieces for a blockbuster, or you have to be the best player in the friggin' league. Or it has to be 3 first-round picks. Like, a 3rd-round pick? I cannot stand the machine sometimes.
I know, it's bad.
It's just so weak. What are you doing? Blockbuster trade. Like, shut up.
That is so right. That is somebody who would say that, you just sort of like, you just think to yourself, that person does not follow sports.
Right.
If somebody would use Blockbuster, the only time you would expect, or you might sort of live with someone using Blockbuster in this kind of way would be the team accounts.
Sure.
Which intentionally exaggerate, or they just don't know anything.
Right.
So they're going to talk like that. But, that's what that Rappaport kind of is.
Kind of.
I guess he sort of is. He's a league account. So it's got to be over.
Just get out of here. I don't. What was the thing that had me so mad before I went away? The Aaron Rodgers clarifying sullen was also Rappaport.
Yes,
that
was.
That was a few weeks ago before I left.
Yes, it was.
I'm sorry. I'm back. I've only been back a few days. I'm already atomic elbowing Ian Rappaport again. But dude, clean your stuff up. What are you doing? Blockbuster trade, 3rd-round pick. What?
There isn't like a tagline like he likes to do that says something like, reward for something just sort of
that's there
kissing
too.
Their butts.
I left that out. I just got really fed up with the blockbuster trade part. The next sentence is, Smith gets a 2-year extension in a deal done by the agent's names. Las Vegas locks in its QB.
Yeah, there's one.
Locks in its QB. Like, there was some drama about Geno Smith not playing for the Raiders after they traded a 3rd-round pick for him. What are we doing?
But there isn't a good value for, like, some sort of an opinion line at the end of it. Not this time. Not enough room when you use Blockbuster. You throw, you throw 11 characters in just randomly like that.
Right.
You spite yourself.
It's not that. It doesn't have to.
I have to give you journeyman. I wanted to come back at you for that too, for Geno Smith, but he that has to be right. This is his 5th team.
Yeah, I mean he's I'm being cute with fine. He's been good, but Blockbuster just does not fit at all for a guy that's been on that many teams and was only traded for a 3rd-round pick.
Most accurate quarterback in the NFL. I mean, for 3 years, he's kind of been the most accurate quarterback in the league. So that's why I would say better than fine. But I like the Raiders a little bit. I like this for them. I guess I like Pete Carroll for them. I guess you have to. I mean, he's old, but pretty much won all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty. It's not hiring Josh McDaniels.
Whatever age he is, he's a young whatever that age is. I don't know his age offhand. 70. He's a young 71.
He's one of the youngest looking guys, right, for his age.
Yep.
It's not hiring Antonio Pierce. So, okay, like Geno Smith, like Carroll, Chip Kelly, that works. That's sort of a wild mind at offensive coordinator. Been successful in a lot of places. Great. Brock Bowers is tight end 1 in kind of every format. So you've got that, and he's in his 2nd year only. And then maybe it's Genty at 6. A lot of people predict that. I had a thought about that today. Who does Ashton Genty, everybody's running back 1 pretty much here, get mocked to? Vegas at 6, the Bears at 9. No, the Saints are at 9. The Bears at 10, the Cowboys at 12.
Right.
And I'm in tough here because I think I don't like that pick for any of those teams. The running back thing is still there. You can tell me, and people do say it, that he's about as good a prospect as you've ever seen. I mentioned Sam Monson and Steve Palazzolo, their Check the Mic podcast, which I watched again today from yesterday when they were ranking running backs. Sam and Steve, I think this is a very sensitive subject for Steve. They both are like, I'm not saying he's this guy, but
I know I saw this on
Barry
Twitter.
Sanders,
Barry
like body
Sanders,
type and sort of the traits remind of Barry Sanders. So if you knew you were getting Barry Sanders, I guess you'd pick him at 6 or sooner. I think you would do that, right? But I still think, the Raiders, I don't know. I think especially for Chicago is they got their coach who's supposed to be able to unlock their offense, Ben Johnson. It's still the Bears. You've still never seen a good Bears offense. So maybe he can do that. Maybe Caleb Williams has a lot more to give than what he showed last year. But if I have, and they've also made a lot of, they've spent a lot of money and
on the line,
trade, capital on the offensive line. Maybe this guy would be sort of the home run, and now they have everything.
Yeah.
But I'm a little bit, I kind of doubt it. I just feel like it's still running back. So I'm not all the conviction you've ever heard from me on this.
Prospect-wise, is he being talked about as being better than Bijan Robinson? Because that was only a couple of years ago where that was one of the best running back prospects you've ever seen. That's how it sounded to me.
It varies guy to guy.
Yeah. Because I don't know. I mean, are we getting a running back of that caliber every other year? Like, I don't know. Like, where's the urgency to take? I got to get this guy. He's one of a kind. Until a year from now, maybe.
The three names you hear, you don't hear Najee Harris. The three names you hear are Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs. That's the same draft. And Saquon Barkley, which goes back to, 2018?
I think that's right.
And so, I mean, before that, I guess it's Elliott. McCaffrey, those are the names, and not every, it varies analyst to analyst. Is he better than that or is he not? I mean, that's good enough to be compared at all, like with quote generational running back prospects. Matt Harmon, receptionperception.com coming up at 4. We'll talk Keon Coleman, Josh Palmer, and some of the receivers from this draft, among other players, with Matt in about 15 minutes or a little more. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR. Welcome back. We'll talk to Matt Harmon today, coming up at the top of the hour. Thanks for listening. WGR, the Odyssey app. Also watching on YouTube and Twitch. People are doing that. I mean, I don't get it, but
I love it. I definitely get it. It's easier to follow along, I think, than our app. For me, it is anyway. Like I can find stuff on the morning show that Lindy Ruff, and just piece of cake finding it. I've spent many frustrating moments of my life trying to find things like that on our app.
I'm sure you're right.
Overly critical of our app.
I'm sure you're right.
For me, it's just easier.
There are going to be advantages. I was just thinking about the part where like you're looking at my face.
Yeah, that
was the only thing.
I'm not sure I really get that either.
I'm not talking about the production. I'm not talking about the ease to find segments. I'm just talking about the looking at me part.
My big dumb red face is
that's the part that's confusing to me.
I agreed.
Jim is with us. Hi, Jim.
Hi, guys. Good afternoon. I have a quick point on James Cook. And, again, I don't have all the analytic stats and stuff, so I could be off a little bit here. But I think he's overplaying his hand a little bit in that he played for the Bills, who obviously they had, one of the top 5 offensive lines in the league, maybe top 10. You know, he had Josh Allen, who's a constant threat to run the ball. And, you know, and he was the beneficiary of both of those. Now, the question would be, does he do that if he plays for, let's say, Jacksonville, where Trevor Lawrence is almost no threat to run, or pick anybody, the Giants and Daniel Jones as a quarterback? You know, so I think he's got to be real careful on what he does. I think outside of the Bills, the Eagles, and maybe Baltimore, that's kind of like similar teams. Other than that, he's going to have trouble replicating those numbers again, I think. Now, again, I don't know all the little nuanced stats, but that's just my opinion from sitting on my couch and watching the game. You know, I'd like to see the guy stay, but you know, you got to be smart at what cost, like you guys have been saying.
Well, there's still a long way to go here, Jim, or there might be. And really, like, it's always two different things. You're putting it in the context of his value to the league, which to this point is still not relevant. If the Bills are trying to get a trade done, then it's relevant. And we've talked about that a couple of times here. But it's about his value to them, not how he would be as a Jaguar. So that's what this challenge is for the two sides to agree on what his value to the Bills is. The Bills this is what we think it's worth, and it's any negotiation. You know, if he goes to free agency, then it's your thing. That's Amari Cooper right now. You know, he put down tape playing for the Bills his whole career, and so, all right, well, what would he be in our offense? Does he have a role? Is he slow now? Like all the different factors. So still for Cook, it's about how the Bills see his value to them, and that could also go either way. It's 18 touchdowns. It's a massive year. It's a great team. The less you would do to disrupt your roster coming off that season, the better, it would seem. But with the running back position and the points you made about the Bills' offense, which are valid, then it might not be quite as simple as paying him for, a record season.
It is important to keep in mind that there is a long way to go. You said that somewhere in there early on, and there is. I mean, I know how it. You know, we're in here. We're talking about possibilities. That's part of this gig, but there is still there's months here for them to figure something out, and really all it takes probably is Cook to just realize maybe at some point, because I would anticipate that the Bills are pretty dug in, because I've maintained all along they've got most everything on their side. The player has his services, and those matter. That is of value. But again, like how much value? The Bills have a player under contract and the franchise tag next offseason if they so choose to do that. It kind of flies in the face of not giving the guy an extension and then paying him whatever the going rate will be, probably close to $15 million, I would think. I think it was 13 this year. So I'm not saying they'll use it, but they've got the hammers, really. All Cook has is, I scored a lot of touchdowns for you, and we almost made it to the Super Bowl. And that is not nothing, but it's not enough to me to leverage the Bills into a contract that they won't be satisfied with. So really, when I say there's a lot of time for Cook to maybe at some point realize, knowing what his brother went through, knowing what other running backs have gone through, like, look, I've tried my level best to get this big top of market deal, and they're not playing. So what do I settle for? Do I settle for $10 million a year and just keep playing because that's a lot of money, and I can be happy with that, or do you just play the year out? Like there's still time, and it doesn't have to end badly. But the house being on the market and him wanting, boy, did you notice when Chris Trapasso yesterday mentioned 15 and he went on to say 16, 17 million? Is that because of running back contracts that have been signed, so the number's going up? I guess I'm asking, did I miss Cook?
I don't know.
Saying he wants more than 15, because I don't know that he's done that. But anyway, I think Chris might just be referencing the marketplace. And what the top of the market would be for a running back if he were to sign now. But either way, there's still a lot of ways this can end with him scoring touchdowns for the Bills this year. It doesn't have to end badly, but it really is largely up to him, I think.
And if he benefits from the advantages he gets by playing for this team, then so be it. Getting connected with the fans brought to you by Northtown Kia, Western New York's #1 Kia dealer. Shop online, northtownkia.com. Thanks for the call, Jim. Matt Harmon, receptionperception.com, next here on WGR.
Call or text
Bills could potentially be the featured team on this year's edition of Hard Knocks Training Camp, as some changes have been made to the participation rules. And notably for the Bills, it is the playoff exemption that is gone. Previously, if you had made the playoffs in the past 2 years, you did not have to participate. And the Bills, they have never been the featured team. They could also be picked if they're in the in-season edition, which will follow an entire division, but they cannot participate in both. The Patriots are sending quarterback Joe Milton in a 7th to the Cowboys for a 5th in this year's draft. Milton made his debut in the final game of last year's regular season against the Bills. He threw for over 200 yards and had 2 total touchdowns. And then the Raiders, they are giving quarterback Geno Smith a 2-year, $85.5 million extension. $66.5 million of that is guaranteed, and this does put Smith now under contract for the next 3 years. Tonight's Bisons game has been postponed. It'll be made up tomorrow in a doubleheader. It's going to start at 4:30. The Bisons are on the road versus Memphis. And the Yankees, they're in action tonight. They look to avoid getting swept by Arizona. Game time just after 7 o'clock. And up at our website, WGR550.com, in the lead up to the 2025 NFL Draft, Howard Simon and Locked On Bills host Joe Marino will be posting a number of player profiles and a number of positions. And up first, it is the cornerbacks with Trey Amos of Ole Miss and Siobhan Ravel of ECU already up. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp.
Last night at 12:30 in the morning, I ate a can of mushrooms. I did. Pieces and stems, if you're wondering. As opposed to buttons. It was pieces and stems, which will be my next year's fantasy football team name.
Pieces and stems.
Pieces and stems.
And the Bulldog.
I should be ashamed to admit this publicly, but whatever. How long have we been doing this? I'm a junkie. I can't be trusted.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
For the record, often, usually even, the mushroom cans are small. They're not even like the size of the bean cans.
Right.
They're like half that, if even that. They're tiny. So amazing they're able to get both pieces and stems in a can so small. Would you not agree? Would you not say that?
I would. It does, I want to say begs the question. I mean, we've got a guest waiting on the line. Why are the cans so small? Are we not to be trusted with more mushrooms than that?
Like, we don't need more than that?
What is the...
I don't know.
It's an odd one.
We'll look that up later. Joining us now on the West Her Hotline is Matt Harmon, receptionperception.com. Always a thrill to have Matt on the show. I mean, one of the most well-respected guys in the game. I know I can say that safely. Matt, Mike, and Chris here. Thanks for being back on with us.
Always good to be with you guys. Honestly, I was enjoying your conversation much more than whatever I'm about to say. I mean, that was you guys had me captivated there, so I think I'm just about to bring down the vibe at this point.
I doubt that. Riveting. I know, it was riveting. Right. Sure it was. Well, generally, Matt, receivers this year, consensus is very different than it sounded for the last couple of years, if not, say, the last 5. There have been amazing players to come out of the draft at that position. This year, it's different. I mean, you're charting these guys and as far in on it as anybody. Is that how it sounds to you, A, and B, is it accurate?
Yeah, no question. That is kind of how I feel as well. I mean, I think there are some quality players this year. Like, there's no doubt about it. Actually, the farther I get down into kind of the guys that I think are going to go on day 2, I think there's a lot of nice potential dart throws. Now, I think that's obviously a different selling point than what we've had the last few years. I mean, it just straight up, you're not going to find 3 guys that I think should go in the top 10 picks. I think you're only going to find one guy that guy might play cornerback, who should be a top 10 receiver in this year's class. So it's not the group that we had last year when we had Marvin Harrison, we had Malik Neighbors, and we had Rome Odunze. You know, and honestly, like Odunze and Harrison, I think those guys were, you know, situations are situations, but they were pretty much outproduced and outplayed by guys like Brian Thomas Jr. and Ladd McConkey. You know, I don't know that we're going to have a group like that this year, but I do think there's a lot of interesting quality pieces on day 2, day 3. So if you're a team that's looking to fill out your wide receiver room, I think this is a reasonably decent class to look for number 2s and number 3s. I just don't think you're going to have a lot of guys that I would grade in as, you know, they're ready-made to come in and contribute and start, and by the end of the rookie seasons be number 1 wide receiver.
What do you think Hunter will be, should be in the NFL. Recognizing that he probably will dabble on both sides, but there's some risks that come with that. Chief among them, injury. If you're going to play, 1.5 times as much as the average receiver or corner, then you're on the field that much more, and who knows. But should he be someone who focuses on receiver, in your opinion, Matt?
Yeah, look, I mean, in terms of what he will be, since I started charting Travis Hunter, and for full disclosure, I don't watch college football during the season. I'm sure I've said that over the course of my time coming on the show with you guys because, as I always say, the NFL keeps me busy enough, and I'm trying to remain a happily married man. I think it would be a pretty tough sell if I said to Mrs. Harmon, hey, we're going to blow a whole nother day on football, one that doesn't have anything to do with my job. So I don't watch college football during the season. So I knew who Travis Hunter was, obviously. I'm not that unplugged from the situation. I knew he was a two-way player, obviously a Heisman Trophy winner, very celebrated collegiate player. But going into charting him, I didn't really know what to expect as a wide receiver. And even you just do the base research on it. Andrew Berry, the Browns GM, made a really good point at the owners meeting, I think it was this week, where he said, people try to compare him to previous two-way players he threw out Champ Bailey. And look, Champ Bailey, I grew up watching him with the Washington football team. He was an incredible player. He was a two-way player in college. He had 775 yards was his most yardage gained as a pass catcher at the collegiate level. Travis Hunter was 5th in the FBS this year. The production is just different. I went into it saying okay, maybe there's going to be some snaps of him playing wide receiver, whatever. No, the guy's a full-time wide receiver. He's playing over 100 snaps in 11 of 13 games, 100 total snaps in 11 of 13 games in college football last year. That is crazy stuff. So you look at him as a wide receiver, whether he's going to be able to do both or not. Number one, we've just never seen somebody do it at this level to this degree already. So is he going to have to be an outlier to do that in the NFL? Yeah, he's already an outlier, man. He's already proven to be somebody to buck the trend. So he would have to buck another trend, obviously, to do that in the NFL, but I think that is what he's going to attempt to do. I think it's what he's going to want to do. By all accounts, that is what he's hoping to do. So, far be it for me to tell another man what to do with his career. But I will say this. If he chooses to play wide receiver, he's an incredible wideout. 97th percentile success rate versus zone, 97th percentile success rate versus press and reception perception. Full green route tree, wins at every route on the tree, so you can do, honestly, more with him than what Colorado did last year, because I think a lot of what they were doing was in an attempt to preserve his body. Like you said, physically, that's the hardest part of this. He also, in addition to the separation, he has truly rare catching ability, great hands, great ball skills. He tracks the ball like a corner at the catch point. So incredibly smart, instinctive, rare athlete that if he chose to focus on wide receiver, my comparison for him is prime Odell Beckham. That's who he reminds me of. I think he obviously, if he chose to play wide receiver, he'd instantly be one of those tier 1 prospects in the NFL draft.
Some people thought Odell Beckham was good. So there's at least some hope for this kid. Matt Harmon, that didn't mean anything, with us on the West Shore Hotline. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. There are some names where maybe the Bills would be inclined, probably not in the first round. But before we attack a couple of those guys, Matt, let's set the Bills up. You mentioned last year's class. It's 9 of the first 34 picks are wide receivers last year, including Keon Coleman, who was 8th on that list, McConkey 9th. I do want to mention Jaden Higgins in the course of this question, because I think I saw you tweet a comparison maybe between Higgins and Coleman. How do you think it went? I think yourself and a lot of people were saying, fine maybe if he's a slot receiver. But that didn't really happen, and you had just sort of a mid-rookie season here from Coleman.
Yeah, that's kind of how I would describe it. It was a mid-rookie season, not bad. I don't think he's a bad player, and it's funny when you talk about draft prospects and you say, hey, I think he would be best maximized in the slot. That doesn't mean I think he's going to be useless as an outside receiver. I just think, again, if you're going to try to get a guy like that to be a high-volume player, you're going to make him the most efficient producer as possible. I do think a move to that kind of jumbo slot receiver. And I mean, we're talking about big slot. Like, Cooper Kupp's a big slot receiver. Chris Godwin's a big slot receiver. Keon Coleman, I was talking about this with James Coe today. I mean, he'd be like a big ass slot receiver. Like, he's a big slot. Same with Jaden Higgins, who I do think is very comparable to that Keon Coleman profile. Another guy that was probably, he was used as an X receiver in college. I think would be best maximized as a slot, or, and this is where I think the Bills can start to kind of maybe expand, if Coleman is up to it, expand his deployment, because like Keon Coleman's got Khalil Shakir in his receiver room. Khalil Shakir is going to be their primary slot. He should be. He's a great player that they paid. I love Shakir's game, but you can do things where those guys are working in tandem, in stacks and bunches, where Coleman is an outside receiver, quote unquote, but he's off the line of scrimmage. You're still getting him away from press coverage. You're putting defenders in conflict in the terms of like playing tight press man coverage on him. I just thought last year it was pretty much very basic straight line X receiver stuff, which he can make some plays because he's a ball winner. But I think in terms of getting him open and more efficient targets, I think there's some ways they can continue to expand his deployment. And like you mentioned, I think Jaden Higgins, a lot of the same feeling with him as a prospect.
So what sort of player should the Bills, like looking at their receiving core here, had to remind us that Curtis Samuel is still on the team. He had a very weird year. It seemed like he was injured maybe and hindered for 3/4 of the year, and then sort of found a little bit of his game, I think, as the year went on, Matt, but still kind of an unfulfilling season. But he's here, Coleman's here, Shakir's here. They've added Josh Palmer. We'll certainly want your thoughts on him as a player moving forward, but they really haven't replaced Amari Cooper, unless you think Palmer is replacing Cooper, in which case then they haven't replaced Mac Hollins. Like, they're down a body from last year, and I wonder if there's a skill set out there in the draft that they should be looking for.
Yeah, I wonder where they're at with Curtis Samuel, because, by all accounts, he was having a great camp and a good offseason, and then obviously this is just, unfortunately, as a Curtis Samuel guy, this is the classic Curtis Samuel story, as he just picks up an untimely injury after another untimely injury, and then he just doesn't get full. This is exactly what happened when he signed with Washington. Honestly, in the first offseason there, he dealt with some injuries, and it just was, like you said, perfectly said it. It was an unfulfilling first season in Washington. Similar in Buffalo, he picks up these injuries close to when camp's about to kind of close, and preseason's coming to an end, and just never really truly gets in phase with the offense, and kind of was very gadgety in his usage. I'm wondering if they want more from him. We'll see about that. The Josh Palmer signing, to me, that seems like a Mac Hollins replacement, or maybe in their view, a younger, more maybe perhaps explosive version of Mac Hollins. I think Josh Palmer is a nice dirty work player. I think he runs some pretty good routes. Is he a true full field separator? I don't know about that. I'm not quite as high on Palmer as maybe some other, services that chart separation and things of that nature. But I do think he's a useful. I'm going to say this about a lot of these Bills receivers: useful players that have their roles. They're just kind of very narrowly defined, I guess, in terms of how they're deployed and should be used. So when you're thinking about the Bills receiver room going forward, I still think they need. Or they could, let me put it this way, I don't think they need, but they could use one more guy that can really beat man coverage on the outside. Is that Curtis Samuel? I think that in Samuel's best years, he has been a guy that you could play at flanker, and you could use off the line of scrimmage and move him around and have him beat man coverage, but I just wonder where they're at with him. So if you're looking into the draft, there are some guys that I think will go on day 2 that sort of fit that more vertical X receiver bucket that I think they should still be shopping in. I'm thinking about Trey Harris from Ole Miss, who's probably more of a developmental guy because he's coming from a goofy collegiate offense. He's got a little bit more of a stripped down route tree. But man, there are times where he stacks defenders really well on go routes, and he can kind of be that man coverage presence that they're missing right now. A little bit further down the line, Alec Manor out of Stanford is another guy who very mistake-prone at the catch point, to put it nicely. He's got issues in contested situations, but does show you flashes of being a man coverage player and is a pretty good blocker as well, which, in a run-heavy offense like Buffalo's, they probably value. So there's definitely some guys for them if you go further down the board in that X receiver bucket, but players like Jalen Knoll, who, is probably a vertical slot player. It seems like they're kind of overloaded with slot players right now, but he would really bring some of that speed and verticality that I think they're missing right now.
Very good. Matt Harmon, our guest here on WGR. How many receivers would you guess go in round 1? I've seen 4 or 5. I've seen a mock draft with 1, not including Hunter. I'm sorry, not including Hunter.
Not including Hunter.
Yeah, it'd be 2 at the minimum, right? The very minimum, if you do include Hunter. How many do you think deserve it or will go in round 1?
I think the over/under should be set at 2.5. If we're not including Travis Hunter, because I think that Matthew Golden and Tetro McMillan are locks. I think they will go in the first round. I would be surprised if either of them slipped out of the first round. The guys that are kind of in that orbit afterwards are Emeka Egbuka and Luther Burden. Now, for me, I rank Egbuka ahead of Matthew Golden, but I think the NFL is a little higher on number one, just his ability to run. Obviously, we saw the 40, and he really does have like vertical route chops. But I just think he's kind of capped out I think both these guys are number 2 receivers, Egbuka and Golden. But Egbuka is just so quarterback friendly. He's a dirty work guy. He gets open against zone coverage. Both these guys get open against zone coverage. But Egbuka, I think, it gives you a little bit more reliability as a catcher. He gives you more reliability in terms of that separation underneath, whereas Matthew Golden's more that vertical player. So I just think that Egbuka's a little quarterback friendly, but a little quarterback friendlier than Golden is. But he's a guy that I rank ahead of him. But I could see him slipping to the second round just because not everybody loves the power slot receiver profile like I do. And Luther Burden, man, he is the ultimate grade to the flashes player. If you're grading to the flashes, which is obviously not what I do with reception perception, I'm charting all the routes that they run in the sample of games that I take. Mm-hmm. That sort of shows, kind of a mixed product. But the flashes of his are, I think you can see some like Bud Light Malik Neighbors in his game because he's a slot-only player, people forget Malik Neighbors was like a 50-50 slot outside guy at LSU. He beats man coverage. He's awesome after the catch, but there's some lapses in his game, no question about it. There's some, there's questions about the character too. That stuff is out there with Luther Burden as well, which he's it's been told to me, he's gonna lose every single tie against Egbuka and Golden, who are just all high character guys. So I don't know if Burden ends up going the first round. Right now, I think I tend to doubt it, although I wouldn't be surprised because he's very talented. So I think Golden and Tet are locks, and then Egbuka, I think, should personally go in the first round. I don't know if the NFL agrees with me.
Have you gotten around to doing work on Isaiah Bond yet? We've heard this week that he was visiting the Bills, so kind of curious, and I'll bet Bills fans are curious to hear your opinion on him.
Yeah, baby, there's another lid lifter, right? And that is a speed guy. And I think when you look at this Bills receiver room, for me, I do think they need an outside. I think they need more outside receivers so that they can move Keon Coleman around. That's basically what they wanted Amari Cooper to be. There was a moment there when Cooper first got to the Bills, and they were able to kind of move Coleman a little bit more around from that X receiver position. I was like, this is going to work. It just obviously did not sustain itself for a variety of reasons with Amari Cooper. So I'd love to see somebody like that. But again, I think beyond just an outside presence, I think what they need is some speed. And Isaiah Bond brings speed. I think he's probably like a day 2 receiver to me. I'm not that excited about Isaiah Bond. I think he's a limited application player. He's also another guy that there's some character questions and things of that nature. So I really don't have a good sense of his draft range and where he's going to go. I think he's probably like a day 2 talent because he can give you speed and he can give you some separation ability. I just wonder where he ends up going in the draft. But again, if we're thinking about speed and like verticality, man, I think Jalen Noel would look good in a Buffalo Bills uniform, but that's just kind of like one of my guys this year.
Matt, just a couple more minutes if you have it. My guys on ADP chasing are often bringing up the name Jack Besh. It seems like there might be 2 kinds of people in the world, Jack Besh guys and everybody else, because I hear a lot about him, just kind of the hype. Are you in on him?
There's Jack Besh guys, and then there's losers, and I'm not going to be among the losers. I like Jack Besh a lot. No, man, this guy, he's just a good football player. Straight up, what's the ceiling on him? I'm not sure about that, but he looks like a guy that would be a great fit in one of these Rams offenses. Tough physical player, can play out of multiple alignments. Good route runner, gets open, tough. I really like his game, man. He's a fun player that I think lands in the right spot, and we could see him just get pummeled with volume. He's definitely somebody that I think can play outside. He played outside a lot at TCU, and I thought has some real man coverage ability. His profile, when it goes live on the site, it's probably not going to be in this next drop, but maybe the one in a week after that. People are going to like what they see. I really think he's a good player that I don't know where. Again, another player I struggle to see like where he's going to go, but just because honestly, in this draft class, the only thing I will fight people on is that Travis Hunter is the best receiver in the class. Everything else I think is kind of up for debate. I'm not going to go hard in the paint for any of these guys because I think it's what skill set do you like when it comes down to teams, who else is in your room. So for that reason, guys like Jack Bech, I'm not quite sure where he's going to go in the draft. Just holistically, as somebody that doesn't have to fill out a wide receiver room, I think he should be a second-round pick. I'm a big fan.
All right. I can buy all that. I'm just if I hear one more time how he led 2021 LSU in catches with Neighbors on the team and Brian Thomas on the team.
We don't need to hear that. We don't need to hear that anymore. But
got it.
People are going to keep saying it.
It's interesting.
It's an interesting piece of trivia the first time you hear it. But I'm with you, Mike, that I've heard it about 10 times now. And I by the way, I've probably said it like 3 of those 10 times that I've heard it. So
yeah, well, it's pretty good.
It's a win for me because I hadn't heard that. So this is why you keep repeating things, because you're always going to find someone who's going to go, hey, that was news to me.
All right, so watch out if you're hanging around with Bulldog in the coming weeks.
I'm going to be dropping that everywhere now, right?
Here it comes.
Matt, just for old time's sake, just we're 20 minutes into a conversation here, and we've not mentioned Stephon Diggs for obvious reasons. But that's when we first got to know you. I feel like certainly that's the case for me. I think for Mike as well. When the Bills traded for Diggs back in 2020, what do you think of him signing in New England?
I like it for old time's sake, and yeah, he's still in the division, so you guys will still have to think about him. Man, I really like the signing for New England. Number one, let's just get this out of the way, like. The weeping and gnashing of teeth about what he was paid, who cares? Like, New England has more money than they can possibly spend right now from a cap space perspective. Well, who are they missing out on by paying Stephon Diggs? Maybe they overpaid him, whatever. It's not my money. As my buddy Patrick Claybon from the NFL Network said to me on my show, they're not going to donate it to a children's hospital, so what do I care about what they're paying him? I think that's a good way of looking at it. So, number one, I don't really care about what they paid him, and honestly, it's just they needed somebody in that room. And what I think is the most interesting thing about Diggs right now is that, you guys know this, and we talked about it last year. He definitely was a declining player in his final year in Buffalo. We saw that step down. But when we're talking about Stephon Diggs, as you guys know, and as we talked about all these years, we're talking about one of the best performers in the reception-perception era from a success rate versus man, press, zone coverage perspective. So the decline is still it's a step down, but it's still very much like a starting level receiver. And what I thought was interesting about him last year in Houston, he took more snaps in the slot than he had since his second season with the Minnesota Vikings. In my opinion, I think most of that was because of who the other guys were in the room. Like we're saying with all these prospects, they have a true X receiver in Nico Collins and a vertical flanker in Tank Dell. You needed a slot receiver. Diggs was able to do that. I don't think he has to do that for the Patriots. 67th percentile success rate versus man coverage last year in reception perception with the Houston Texans for Stephon Diggs. Obviously, there's an injury question. What's he going to look like coming back from it? But I think the film last year, whether that's still relevant or not, again, coming off a torn ACL, did show that he can still play outside as a flanker and beat some man coverage.
Matt, thank you so much for today. ReceptionPerception.com. It seems that the site is just doing great. The videos are great. You're connected with players, so lots to like from Matt's content. Anything else I should mention?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's almost like we've been doing this for a while now, Mike. And I appreciate you guys as always having me on. And yeah, the Bills always give us something to talk about from the wide receiver perspective. So I'm really interested to see how this room fills out this year.
Me too. Thanks again, Matt.
Always appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Likewise. Matt Harmon on the West Her hotline. What do you like there? He mentioned Aya Manor, who I like.
Mm-hmm.
He likes a lot of these guys, second, third round, and that's probably if the Bills do it, where they would do it.
What was the critique of your guy? How did he word that? He's the catch point, like the phrasing was interesting.
Which guy?
Your guy. Yeah, it was a little
Canadian.
It was a little alarming the way he said. Like, he's got some issues and I wanted to remember because it really stood out. And I know you like this player. Not to focus on the one negative thing he said about him, but we'll find that.
I don't watch college football either, but the profile is what I've liked about him, and the probable price. Smooth. Big enough, catches the ball. Maybe there's something, I don't know a fraction of what Matt knows. But, do the Bills pick one?
Maybe mistake prone at the catch point is what he
Mistake
said.
prone.
There it is, yeah. Mistake prone at the catch point. That doesn't sound like a good trait to me for a receiver.
Maybe for a guard.
Like, he's great. He gets open. He beat his man.
All right.
He's he's big.
Well,
his quarterback can see him, but when the ball gets there, all bets are off.
This will be good for us if you just keep ripping on him. This will be good for us. Pick a side, everybody. 803-0550, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
Never miss a second of Sabres. headlines.
Quarterback news today. It started with the Patriots sending Joe Milton and a 7th to the Dallas Cowboys for a 5th in this year's draft. Milton did make his debut in the final game of last year's regular season against the Buffalo Bills, where he did throw for over 200 yards and scored 2 total touchdowns. And then the Raiders, they are giving quarterback Geno Smith a 2-year extension that is worth up to $85.5 million. $66.5 million of that is guaranteed, and this now locks up Smith under contract for the next 3 years. Over to the Bisons. Tonight's game has been postponed. It's going to be made up tomorrow in a doubleheader that's going to start at 4:30. Bisons are on the road versus Memphis. The Yankees are in action tonight. They're looking to avoid getting swept by Arizona. Game time just after 7 o'clock. In college hoops, if you missed it last night, UB women, they win over Cleveland State, and that means they advance to the NIT final, which they will host on Saturday against Troy. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
A little bit further down the line, Alec Manor out of Stanford is another guy who very mistake-prone at the catch point, to put it nicely. He's got issues in contested situations, but does show you flashes of being a man coverage player and is a pretty good blocker as well, which, in a run-heavy offense like Buffalo's, they probably value. So there's definitely some guys for them if you go further down the board in that X receiver bucket, but players like Jalen Knoll, who, is probably a vertical slot player. It seems like they're kind of overloaded with slot players right now, but he would really bring some of that speed and verticality that I think they're missing right now.
Our guest just before, Matt Harmon. Did that clear things up?
Very mistake-prone, even, to be kind.
Listen, you're going to keep ripping this guy.
Let's hang out. Look, I'm just I'm reporting the facts.
No, you are. You are.
That's what the man said. Very mistake-prone at the catch point, to be kind.
I'm doing the thing where, based on almost no information or, credibility at all, I decided to like him, and then the expert comes on and doesn't quite, and I'm like, well, he can't be right. What does he know?
Right, good job.
That's the thing I'm doing.
He sounds like he still likes the guy. I don't think he was just being nice to you, but just, very mistake-prone at the catch point seems like a more significant flaw than Matt let on there, I guess I would say, for myself.
And he brought him up.
Right.
Like, I didn't ask him about A.O. Manor. He brought him up.
Right.
But we do this as people. I get it. You know this stuff, and I don't. But still,
right.
I already decided. I was right. You can't talk me off this.
Well, good for you.
Yeah, thank you. It's about having courage of your convictions.
Yeah, that's right. Don't worry about being presented with other facts and or opinions that are contrary that should perhaps move a reasonable person off of your point of view. Just dig in.
I want to compare this to something like about religion, where I just have some weird belief. And joining us now on the Western Hotline is the Pope, who comes on and just like, yeah, that's not how it is. That's not it.
I think they should give communion at the beginning of the Mass. Pope, what do you think?
I don't know. That ain't it. Well, now what do I do? I thought this. This is going to be tough.
Mom,
all right.
Mom, I'm sorry. I just said Pope. What do you think?
You're supposed to. It's okay to like Your Holiness
sounds
or something
a little
like
flippant
that. Your
to
Holiness.
be addressing the Pope, and I just want to
As
apologize to my mom.
Okay. Let's move on. Louis is with us. Hello.
Hey, guys. Thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome, Louis. Nice to hear from you.
Yeah, nice to hear from you too, Bulldog. Listen, a little while ago you had Sal Capaccio on, and he was talking about the James Cook situation, saying that, he understands James Cook, he wants more money, and it's a business on both sides. But the Bills still have the leverage, and I know it can go either way. But what I'm saying is the Bills got him for a second-round pick, and he's a two-time Pro Bowler. So, it's not so easy to say, well, he's going to sell his house, he's going to do what the hell he wants, because it doesn't work that way. I'm saying with this draft coming up with the Bills, if I get a second-round pick, bottom end second, at the very least it's got to be top third round or the very top of the third round, somewhere around that area. I would consider it. But still, I say to him, look, you play out the fourth year of your contract. By the way, it's $5.3 million.
Yep.
He sits out. That's a lot of money for a rookie. So he's got to come up, put his big pants on. If he wants to go play somewhere else, that's for the Bills to decide. But he's going to play good on that last year, because whether he stays with Buffalo or goes somewhere else, he's got to make himself known. I think that the Bills will give him the money, use a transition tag or franchise tag down the road if he has a good year. But you know what? He can't do anything. The Bills right now have the cards, and I want to stay on the and hear your response.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely how I feel about it. I felt that way all along here, that they have the leverage. Cook isn't powerless, but sitting out does not do anything for him. Like, he's not going to toll his contracts. Like, he's not going to waltz into free agency if he doesn't come and play. So, you don't like it to get to that point where the player is begrudgingly coming to work because he's got to get through it. Like, you'd like everything to be more harmonious than that. But I think that's the most likely outcome. It's my favorite outcome. I like Cook just fine as a player, but I don't want to pay a running back that money. I wouldn't want to pay Saquon Barkley the money Philadelphia's paying him. I know it works, and I know they won the Super Bowl, so I sound like a lunatic saying that, but I just don't think that's good team building. So I'd like to avoid that if I can, and I think the best way to do that is to not do an extension here unless he compromises severely on what he's looking for, and kind of call his bluff to an extent. And I would expect him to do what the caller is suggesting. He'll do come in and play and then go off into the sunset. And that's fine by me. Like, just keep assembly lining these running backs in and out. I'm all right with that. I know it's not complimentary to the player and good for them. I don't think it's the fairest thing in the world, but it's where we are. It's the way the world works in that league. And even with the change in the way some running backs have been paid here, Cook to me doesn't meet the threshold of a guy that should be at the top of the market. So I'm simply not going to want to do it, and I don't want my favorite team to do it.
I wonder, here's maybe a new slant to this, because we're back, both of us are kind of back saying the same things for another day, as it's still only April 3rd. I wonder if the length of the contract is like maybe a bigger sticking point than the average annual value. Like, everybody's getting paid. I think negotiations in the NFL this year lately go like this. The player asks for a deal and the team says, okay. I think that's what the Bills things have been mostly. I mean, I know I'm obviously going all the way, but I think it's just really easy for these deals to get done because of the cap boosts again, and there's more coming. Just, all right, fine. Because, later, what does everybody say now when they talk about Jamar Chase or they talk about Micah Parsons? If you wait, it's going to be a lot more expensive. So let's just do it now, and that'll be true, and we'll look good down the road. So is it such a thing on principle for being in the Bills to be off of $15 million for this guy when the Barkley re-up did happen and the success that Philly, Baltimore, Green Bay with their Houston, all playoff teams, Super Bowl winner, veteran running backs, Buffalo with Cook.
Yep.
Is it really such a thing on principle that they wouldn't do that, or at least come close to it? Maybe if they come close to it, it gets done. You might think so. So possibly the Bills' bigger issue could be, we don't want to pay him $12 million a year when he's 29. Like, that's what we're afraid of, because that's also been who they've been. I mean, they have drafted day two guys, including Cook. They've been successful. That seems like a thing that they do that's worked. Mm-hmm. So maybe we'll see that again. That'd be really interesting if they do that this year. But still, like that's kind of been their MO. And when time's up, time's up. Singletary was also a good player on a great team. And they're like, nope, goodbye. Moss, they traded. Who did they get for Moss?
The
Colts.
The kick returner.
Hines.
Yeah.
Like, they traded Moss before he came up. They dumped Singletary. And wouldn't it tell you that kind of the plan here would be to dump Cook? Like, we'll just keep bringing in somebody 22, 23 years old. And he doesn't, this point comes up, and it can be looked at either way. He doesn't have the size for the big workload. The Bills have not. I mean, they're trying to win a championship here. How they use him tells you. Their actions speak. Yep. So they don't see him as a workhorse, and paying a guy like that, they've certainly gotten plenty of mileage out of him, plus, multiple playoff games every year. I don't know. I wonder if they don't want to make a 3-year or 4-year commitment, bottom line. And maybe they would do $15 million a year for 2 years or for 1. But why would the player wouldn't want that. The player, this is the Dalvin Cook lesson. This is James Cook's moment, or next year is. I also would say, to one of the caller's points, I mean, it is a lot of money to walk away from, and I bet he doesn't do that. I bet he plays. But he also saves his body if he doesn't, camp or preseason or just 200 carries again. Like, it's not necessarily bad for his value.
But the problem is, if you don't, that's definitely true. No wear and tear because you're not playing, but you're still going to be standing in the same spot you were. Yeah, I mean,
if he doesn't come in at all,
right. The year doesn't just disappear. Like you're kind of stuck.
I don't expect that to happen.
So no, me either. And you were right, by the way, about his contract really jumping up. His base salaries year over year, 700,000, 970, 1.1, and now this year 5.2.
This year will be more than all the money he's made so far.
Right.
Where he can't get those cords tucked away on that picture of his house.
Right.
Now he can afford to do that. Now we can afford to have a cord guy.
Get a cord guy, buddy.
Get a cord guy. Jimbo. Thanks, Louie. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog. We'll talk some more after this break on WGR. Welcome back. So far today, we've been, again, into the James Cook conversation. Houses for sale, apparently. So does that mean anything? I still want to know about Benford and Shakir and Bernard, whether their houses are for sale. Because if I had a jump in pay like that, I think the house would be on the market the next day. I don't know if I really mean that, but Now, you're going way up here. And Cook is already going way up in salary. So maybe he is moving on, or maybe he's just moving up. It's not a huge house. I think I can say that. I mean, for an NFL star, it's not a huge house.
Sure, I agree.
2,000 square feet-ish.
Yeah, shoot, my house is 2,000 square feet.
There it is. You're the Bulldog, but still, that's fair enough.
That's right. I've been making millions for years.
It's all those ads you do.
Yeah.
Joe is next. Hello, Joe.
Hey, I have a comment about Cook, but you guys have time for a quick trivia question for you guys?
Hoping it's good.
It's good. So who are the two most infamous people in Buffalo sports lore history with the last name of Anderson? And why are they infamous?
Infamous?
I'm not sure this is a trivia question.
That sounds like an opinion question, really.
No. Let's call it a...
You tell us.
Okay. So the first one, John Anderson, took over for Punch Imlach in 1978 between December and June. They were like 500. They fired Imlach, and he took the team to the playoffs, and then he got let go. Or he went back to being a scout right after that. So that's one. And then for the Bills, Gary Anderson, famously drafted in '82, missed 5 field goals in preseason, and many people think did it on purpose and ended up being one of the best kickers of all time. In fact, the only kicker who ever made every field goal and every point PAT in a single season for Philly.
For Minnesota.
Was it Minnesota? Okay.
Then he missed the kick to take them to send them to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, then he missed a big kick at the end. Yeah, right.
Okay, all right. Just thinking about the running back position, and I know you talked about it a lot earlier last year that you felt that things were shifting a little bit, and I think McDermott said they're trying to get ahead of it. And it seemed like the running back was all of a sudden becoming a much more important position. It kind of didn't end that way last year, but do you think they're thinking about that maybe a little bit more than they would have last year or the year before?
Well, I mean, I don't know about league trends or anything like that, but they did, like you alluded to, look like they were, I mean, it felt right to me to think they were going to be more of a running team last year, and they were successful, which I think only means that I doubt they really want to move on from this player. I just think there's a possibility that they think they might have to. I mean, really, nothing about his performance dictates that they need an upgrade. He's not the best, but he's good enough. And, they have a winning formula with him on the field. And Johnson and Davis. So common sense would tell you they'd want to keep that together. I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that the trend in the league is worth considering, but it is also, at the same time, I think important to note how the Bills have used Cook to this point. And I would understand any team not wanting to pay a running back who plays less than half the time for me a top-of-the-market contract, because a lot of the guys, not all of them, but a lot of the guys, like Barkley's, 80% of the snaps or more than that? We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, I know.
70-something.
78 or something. Yeah, it was close to 80.
Yeah.
Close enough for me to want to round it up, I guess, to exaggerate the point, even if just subtly.
Nice try.
That matters a lot, I think, in this. You're not talking about a guy that you would pay and then, because I'm going to use him so much more. He's so good and so effective, and he really made our offense hum. We got to get him on the field 78% of the time. He's not built that way. Like, I don't think that's a guy you want to play that much. And then you want to talk about buyer's remorse. You want to regret a huge contract extension for a running back, have something happen to him right away. I mean, I know it can happen to anybody, but it's just not a guy you want to make into a guy that carries the ball that much. And right there, I'm already at, okay, well, then I'm out. I don't want to pay you a big market rate contract. It just doesn't work that way for me. That's where I am. The Bills could find their way to a number that they like a lot more than even I do. I'll tell you that. And I guess I want to be rooting for that because I do think Cook has value for them, and they are in a Super Bowl window here. I mean, I'd like to assume they could replicate his production, but I don't know it, But I'm also not assuming Cook is going to produce like he did last year. That's a big part of the reason why I'm reluctant to do a contract now with him. He's coming off a career year in touchdowns, and that's the ultimate buy high moment. I don't want to do that.
803-0550. Thanks, Joe. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog back with more after sports. This is WGR.
550. Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update.
The Buffalo Bills announced offseason program dates today, and Sal Capaccio does have more on that up at our website, WGR550.com. Also today that could involve the Bills, changes to the Hard Knocks exemption policy, as the Bills could be a member of the training camp edition, as the original playoff exemption is gone. Previously, if you had made the playoffs in the past 2 years, you did not have to participate. The Bills, though, have never been the feature team. They also could be part of the in-season entire division edition, though they cannot participate in both. Extensions are being handed out in the NFL. Cardinals lockdown tight end Trey McBride, 4-year, $76 million deal. $43 million of that is guaranteed. And the Raiders, they are giving quarterback Geno Smith a 2-year extension that is worth up to $85.5 million. $66.5 million of that is guaranteed. To the Bisons, their game tonight got postponed. It'll be made up tomorrow in a doubleheader. It's going to start at 4:30. They are on the road versus Memphis. While the Yankees, they're at action. They're looking to avoid getting swept by Arizona. Game time tonight just after 7. And up at our website, WGR550.com, in the lead-up to the 2025 NFL Draft, Howard Simon and Locked On Bills host Joe Marino will be posting a number of player profiles at a number of positions. First up is the cornerbacks, with Trey Amos of Ole Miss and Siobhan Revelle of ECU already up. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Jope and the Bulldog.
They have this Panther sound effect that is just the cheesiest, stupidest sounding thing. Big voice guy going, Panther goal scored by Sam Reinhart.
Where'd you get that thing? I trapped it. Been keeping it in my bathroom at the motel, feeding it old pizza.
It's Mike Shope.
If you're calm, that wondrous big cat will be calm too. But if you're scared, that beautiful death machine will do what God made it to do. Namely, eat you with a smile on its face.
And the Bulldog. On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Another great, albeit brief, ex-Bill on the list of players purged in the ESPN Fantasy Football database today. They're just not coming back, so we can take their names off the board.
Kelvin Benjamin?
O.J. Howard.
Oh, okay.
Benjamin might be good for that. He was it 2 years ago where he went to the Giants to play tight end, maybe? I mean, it wasn't that long ago, so.
Yeah.
We had Corey Davis. Sammy Watkins was one today. I guess ESPN assuming he's not coming back.
So this is the list of guys that when it gets to be, I don't know, December and you're ravaged by injuries, and if you're in a league that is not policed as severely as Paul's is, you have opportunity to still add players and make moves because you haven't run out of them. You go through the list and you start to see names of guys. You're like, is that guy even in the league? That's this list. That's what we're talking about, the purge. Okay.
Yes.
It's good that O.J. Howard got off of that then.
Yeah, that's a sad one. Duke Johnson, we mentioned him earlier as somebody else for this. They've given up. Tom Brady. Now that's a little bit bold.
That could be risky.
David Johnson.
Former Arizona and Houston running back David Johnson.
Yep. They're assuming he's not coming back. I wonder, who is the guy? Oh,
boy, talk about a running back that just got brutalized by the league. I mean, he got paid, but man, the injuries just wrecked that guy.
He lost a whole season when he was the 101 in fantasy for Arizona. He tore his ACL in week 1. There was that. He lost a whole season there. He was traded to Houston, right? DeAndre Hopkins.
Right.
That didn't help. That didn't help at all.
No.
I don't know about wherever else. Ronald Jones. Tampa.
Not Donald Jones. That would be weird if he were still
Donald Jones.
If he were still
everybody, welcome back.
Still on a list. He's got to be like 40.
Ronald. Think about what that says, too. I mean, you're 40. You're long gone.
I know, right.
John Brown. You know, John Brown, here's a glass to that guy. It's always Diggs with the Allen story. and with good reason. Diggs is a big part of it. John Brown and Beasley.
Brown and Beasley maybe proved to the Bills that they should go trade for Diggs. Because when they got here in 19, Allen took a step. He did not. We were not all set. I don't remember it that way going into the 20 season, but there was progression, and maybe but that's a question I might like to ask Bean sometime if we ever get the opportunity casually over a cup of coffee or something, not even necessarily on the air. When did you know you needed to go get a dude? Seeing the quarterback take a step with the likes of John Brown and Cole Beasley, nothing against them, but neither of those guys is Stephon Diggs. But it still lifted the whole thing and lifted Allen. Like, okay, let's push that a little further. Let's go a lot further. Let's go get a guy that is a bona fide number one type receiver and see what happens. And the results speak for themselves. It was 1 year ago today, by the way, the Diggs trade.
The Diggs trade away.
Away, that's right.
Right. Yeah, I think Bean would say this. It has to be true. It has to be acknowledged how much luck there is in it. Because, here we're talking about still getting a real number one. Cooper was maybe going to be a real number one. Shakir, nice player. Never anybody's like real number one, right? So the continuing saga, at least post-Diggs, so it's not that long. It's 1 year exactly, apparently. Like, to get that receiver through the draft or whatever. What do we always say? It's the time of year we talk about the draft every day. Well, this is how you have to do it. Because these guys just don't come up. The best we had this year was supposed to be T. Higgins, and he didn't even make it against odds.
Right.
Like, Higgins didn't even come up. This year you have older guys. You have Keenan Allen, who was not signed. You have Cooper himself. You have a couple more guys like that. Godwin was somebody else. He's been injured a lot, not as old, but he re-signs with Tampa. So how are you going to get that wide receiver one, bold print, the draft?
Or trade for DK Metcalf. But, yeah.
Oh, fair. That's right. That did happen. It's rare, though, as you would assume. And Diggs came available, and they got that done. Like, in 1 day. They saw social media, got on it, and, that's to their credit, but it's kind of unusual that even happened, that he was available like that.
I think looking back at it now with the last two off seasons added on, I think it's right to say it's rare. We had that one off season with Hill and A.J. Brown, and it seemed like, and there was maybe another guy that I'm forgetting.
There was A.J. Brown and Marquise Brown in the draft on the same night, and then Hill would have maybe been... Maybe that was the same year? I don't know.
Yeah, it was. Hill and Adams, that was before the draft. That was like when free agency was coming or was on, like whatever. So it was like March, and then at the draft you had the other guys. So you had four marquee receivers in one off season, and it felt like, okay, well, teams are, they're going to get creative with this now. Like, we don't want to pay this guy $30 million at 29 years old, so we're going to move, or it wasn't $30 million then, it was probably more like 25 or 20, but whatever. You get the point. And I thought, and maybe a lot of us thought, that was going to be happening regularly. Like year over year, you would just have that. That's why Ayuk was so interesting last offseason. Like, here he comes, contract's coming up, they got another guy, what are they going to do? It turns out they ended up keeping him. But the expectation I had was that, every year there's going to be 2, 3, 4 guys of that caliber that are going to get moved because teams are just in weird places on their timeline with that big contract, or the guy do a big contract and it's just not time. Our quarterback fell apart. We're looking for a quarterback. We're not going to pay a receiver top of the market because of that, whatever. And it just really has not happened. Metcalf sort of stands out now this offseason. I don't think there was a trade of that caliber or any of the ones that I previously mentioned from 3 years ago last year either. Like, nothing really happened. We were in the center of that storm, I think, expecting something to happen because the Bills traded. I guess that maybe was your trade. Like, that was Diggs got traded. That's a marquee name. So that was last year's version of it. I kind of forgot about it because it wasn't like a guy we thought we could add. It was a guy we ended up purging. But anyway, the point is, you're right. Those guys are harder to find. The cost is always going up, at least contractually. You're going to pay, $35 million now if you're trading for a true number one wide receiver without a contract in place already. Ayuk is under contract for less than that now. But the point is, draft, because otherwise you probably aren't going to get your hands on a guy like that. It's part of the reason why I wanted the whole time Diggs was here, just about draft another guy that could potentially be him, because I'm going to need,
so to speak,
someone in the timeline. I'm going to need someone here ready to take that spot, and it never really happened. Gabe Davis was never a candidate for that to me. He was a fine number 2 receiver and had his moments, but was never a guy that showed the traits that he could be a go-to guy. So, your best chance of getting that guy is to draft him. And the Bills did draft Keon Coleman last year, and I'm sure they're as hopeful as anything that he's going to pan out and turn into something for them more than what he was last year as a rookie. And I don't think it's unreasonable to be somewhat optimistic about that. He showed some promise. It just got derailed. Hopefully he can get it back on track. But another guy is absolutely called for. I don't know if it outranks, even in my mind, defensive end, corner, defensive tackle, but they still have room for another guy. And right now, if you ever want to get past everybody eats, because everybody eats it worked, they scored, they won, great. Eventually, someone should emerge and become your number one guy. That's how the league usually works. And I don't want to stop looking for that guy just because everybody eats worked so well last year. I think they should still be looking for that guy. And I don't know that he's here. Coleman might be the best hope you have. Shakir, I love Shakir, but he's never going to be that guy. Samuel is not that guy. Josh Palmer,
no,
I don't think he's going to be that guy.
No.
So Coleman, you got to hope that he can ascend. And I don't know. That's not even a 50-50 bet, I don't think, at this point. So you should probably keep looking.
Yeah, the best they're going to do, I think, on this is day 2. Which is good. I mean, that's still good. It might even be surprising if they do that. They could get a 3rd-round pick and then maybe do that. But it seems like it's going to be a defense draft. John Brown, it's his birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, John Brown.
35. Remember where he ended up?
No.
What? No.
No.
Here.
Oh, that's right. He came back.
He came back and caught a touchdown pass in the Nyheim Hines game the week after Hamlin.
Wow.
He caught one pass for the Bills that year. He didn't spend the whole year with them. They brought him back. He caught one pass. He played in the playoffs, too, against Miami. Including that game, though, he caught one pass, and that was it. 42-yard touchdown pass against New England in 2022. Arizona, Baltimore, Buffalo, Tampa, Denver, Jacksonville, Buffalo. That's John Brown.
Wow.
Here's a thought I had, too. We haven't talked about this Joe Milton trade.
He squeezed in a lot of teams in between Buffalo stints there.
He did. He got around.
I didn't realize he did that.
We haven't talked about this New England-Dallas trade today. I was just thinking before about the draft and would you like a wide receiver? Okay. Even a good one. Would you like a running back? Absolutely. Do they need one? We don't know if they think that, but, maybe. And I kind of like quarterback, too. I'd like to have a new quarterback to just talk about and to follow, whether that's the Syracuse kid or Ohio State or Notre Dame, one of these sort of guys, on the list.
Saturday quarterbacks.
Saturday. Yeah, like 6th round or something.
Yeah.
Just to have them. And when I thought about that, I thought about this Milton trade. And what an insult. What a disaster for the thought. Well, you draft somebody because you were saying always draft a wide receiver, right? Something along those lines. And I used to say always draft a quarterback. Why would you not? What else matters? So maybe thinking of that, doing that here, and maybe you find somebody. Maybe you're next year playing a meaningless Week 18 game, and your guy is the next Joe Milton or Rob Johnson or whoever, where he has a showcase game, and the league wants him. But the Patriots did so badly in the trade that, never mind.
Right.
Never mind. Sam Monson and Palazzolo were talking about this today, and even Sam tweeted it, how Johnson, as we will remember, starts one game for Jacksonville in the meaningless finale, and he's amazing. And the Bills traded the 9th overall pick for him.
And gave him 5 years and $25 million.
Yeah, like 9 overall, which was Fred Taylor ultimately for Jacksonville. But amazing, right?
Yeah.
It didn't seem so amazing to me then. Like, need a guy.
Yeah.
Collins didn't work out. All right, Rob Johnson. Here, I'm not saying they're the same. I mean, the Cowboys, who knows if they'll even play for the Cowboys?
The scenario is similar enough. Like, as far as playing a game goes and smashing it, like Milton did what Rob Johnson did back in 1997, I guess that would have been.
Yeah, close enough.
Yeah.
So the Patriots trade Milton and a 7th for a 5th. A compensatory, like the end of the 5th. Basically, they gave him to Dallas. And it was reported that other teams made better offers, but they decided to let the player decide where did he want to go. And he picked Dallas, which is also weird.
Right.
Because he's not going to start there.
No.
You want to go to somewhere, go to Pittsburgh or someplace where, and they were on the list.
Yeah.
That they were they asked about him, but, maybe the Patriots also kind of wanted to bury him and not lose to him. Because what you had with Milton last year, even in camp, they draft Drake May at 3, right? Daniels 2,
yep.
May 3. They draft Drake May at 3, and in camp, people were saying, like, oh, Milton's better.
Yeah, right.
And in the preseason, he was really good in the preseason.
Yeah.
So the one thing about this that I get from New England side is you don't really want that. You don't want a young player on the bench if the starter struggles. And, we have this other guy. Did you see Week 18 last year?
Right.
We have this other. You don't want that.
Yeah, you'd rather have, some journeyman that nobody really feels that good about.
Which is exactly what they have in Joshua Dobbs.
Right.
Somebody who's really no threat at all to May. I get that. But the best they could do, the picks would have almost the same potential to make it in the league. A 5th and a 7th. It's almost nothing. But, here you go. An intriguing, young, he was a rookie last year, quarterback prospect that showed well when he got on the field. And, they couldn't cash in on that at all.
How much do you remember offhand? I can look it up. What level of pick was Johnson?
Oh, 4th.
Okay,
I
so
think.
not
3rd or 4th.
So it's not like big pedigree there, right? It's not like he was a first-round pick who just did until he finally got his chance and shined. Like, okay, well that's it, we're sold. He was just a kind of a guy.
Pick 99.
Okay, Milton was later than that, but still, the point I'm making, trying to figure out really what it is that the league, I think, has probably gotten smarter about doing stuff like this than they were in 1997 or 98 when they traded for Rob Johnson. The Bills did, because his reputation, his draft status is not something that would have pushed you to do that. Is all I'm saying. Whereas Milton was definitely a Saturday pick, but so was Rob Johnson, as it turns out. So yeah, I don't know.
4th round.
Yeah,
same draft as Collins.
Right. Yep.
But he didn't start until the finale in his 3rd year.
Yeah.
He started.
Mark Brunell was
Mark Brunell.
Yeah.
AFC Championship. That was a team that went far. Johnson, of course, a Super Bowl winner.
Right.
As he wrote
at one time
on his website.
On his website.
It might still. I haven't been. I'm probably the first person clicking on this page on Pro Football Reference today. I'm not going to the website. That's enough. That's enough, Rob Johnson. He ended, by the way, with the Raiders. Which so did Lossman, right? Lossman played for the Raiders.
I think that's right, yeah.
Johnson wore number 7 for the Oakland Raiders in 2003.
Well, I wonder if Milton is just betting on, Prescott's had injury problems. The backups have played there over the last few years, so I'll get my chance. Right? I don't know. I still would think the runway would be clearer in a place, like you mentioned, at least Pittsburgh. I don't have the other teams memorized that were on that list. But Pittsburgh certainly looks more quarterback needy than Dallas right now. But I don't know if there's just being in that part of the country matters to the kid, or if it's, more just betting on the guy getting hurt or what exactly. But it's a weird choice.
Lossman also wore number 7 for the Raiders in 2009, but he ended up with Miami in 11. He played 2 games, threw 10 passes for the Dolphins. Remember Remember that? I don't remember that at all. 2011 Miami.
Not unless one of those games was against the Bills, and I forget. So I'd want to say, of course, I remember him playing against the Bills, but no, I don't really remember.
2011. What were we doing in 2011?
Well, probably bemoaning a 12-year playoff drought.
You think?
That would go on for a little bit longer. 2011. Like, that's
Fitzpatrick.
That's Chan Gailey and Fitz still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did appear in a 35-8 Dolphins win over the Bills in Week 11 of 2011, but he did not throw a pass. What's that game going to be? This will be fun. Bills are 5-4. 11 is a season where they started hot and then completely fell apart. 5-4. Miami is 2-7. The Bills are 3-point underdogs despite the better record, and they lose 35-8. Wow. Are you having fun? Are we having fun yet?
that's a bit of
Who's the Bills kicker? You'll never get it.
Oh, great.
Who is the Bills kicker in this game? 2011 season.
Nick Mickemeyer. John Leipold.
Thanks for trying. I told you never get it. So why should I try?
I'm just naming off kickers from my childhood.
I'm going to say the name, and you're going to be like, that's made up.
Okay.
It's not going to be like a Carpenter.
Okay.
Or, of course, Lindell, one of the kickers from the drought.
Or even like
drought kicker trivia.
Mike Hollis.
Tune in tomorrow morning. Oh, Joe's off. Tune in soon to a Sneaky Joe show where they have the 38 kickers from the drought. And you have to rank them by how many field goals they made. Dave Rayner.
Yeah, no, that's made up for sure.
It sounds right.
It's 100% made up. Yeah, that is not a real person.
Dave Rayner.
Who kicked field goals for the Bills. Yeah, I don't have any
7 games.
Any recollection of that happening whatsoever.
7 games. Why did they need this Dave Rayner in 2011? I don't recall. Lindell was on the team. Was that it for him? No. He must have gotten hurt.
Yeah, that's got to be what happened there. So I'm getting lost in the 2011 season now that you mentioned it. I'm just looking at it. First loss in Cincinnati. There's a Stevie Johnson incompletion that would have been a first down. Bills, the final score of this game is 23-20. Bills are trying to mount a tying or winning drive. And there's a pass to Stevie Johnson on a 3rd and 7 or something. And it's low. He goes down to get it, and it's ruled incomplete. I don't remember how much they looked at it or what, but it stood, and we were pretty sure that he had caught the ball. But still, they lost that game. They beat the Eagles the next week, lose to the Giants as a bye, and then the Washington game is in Toronto, is it not?
Yes.
Fitz gets hurt in that game. They win. He gets the contract. Before that game, I think they announced contract extension for Fitzpatrick. He gets hit in the ribs and is almost never the same player for the Bills again after that. But they got the 5-2 after that.
This is the New England win in Week 3 that year.
Yes, right. That's right.
Wow, look at the scores. That Dolphin loss, I do not remember it. It had to be just the worst.
Right.
This is really over.
That was preceded by a Dallas loss that was 44-7.
The Dallas game I remember. The Miami game I do not. Oh, wow. 2011 Bills, let's go. Any of these guys still in the league? Or were they all purged by the ESPN fantasy database today, including Donald Jones, as you mentioned earlier?
I'm going to guess Dave Rayner is not still in the league.
Rayner? Let's take a break. We'll look for your calls after the update.
Oh.
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, what? I just have to know. What's the noise?
After that Washington game, they lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in a row.
Yes, they did.
Oh, my God.
Yes, they did. But they built some momentum at the end for the following season. It's the Tebow game.
Right.
They won the Tebow game.
They clobbered Denver, yeah.
And then they go to New England and go up 21-0. And Johnson's got a T-shirt.
And
they give up 49 unanswered.
Right. Happy New Year on the T-shirt.
That's a band name, 49 unanswered. All right. Time for the update. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
Never.
The Buffalo Bills announced today offseason program dates. Sal Capaccio has more on that up at our website, WGR550.com. Number of extensions handed out today in the NFL. Cardinals locked down tight end Trey McBride, 4-year, $76 million deal. $43 million of that is guaranteed, while the Raiders are giving quarterback Geno Smith a 2-year extension that is worth up to $85.5 million. $66.5 million of that is guaranteed. Tonight's Bisons game has been postponed. It's going to be made up tomorrow in a doubleheader that will start at 4:30. The Bisons are on the road versus Memphis. Yankees are in action tonight. They look to avoid getting swept by Arizona. That game will get going just after 7 o'clock. In college hoops, if you missed it last night, UB women, they win over Cleveland State, and now they advance to the NIT final, which they will host Saturday against Troy. And then up at our website, WGR550.com, in the lead-up to the 2025 NFL Draft, Howard Simon and Locked On Bills host Joe Marino will be posting a number of player profiles at a number of different positions. First up is the cornerbacks, with Trey Amos of Ole Miss and Siobhan Ravel of ECU already up. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Call Sue after this, keep it a buck. It would be cool to play with my brother again, who only God knows at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? But I do talk to him. Sometimes when you outside of football, you ain't really trying to talk about football. Let's keep it a buck. Like I probably just talking about his day, how he doing, what he doing, any trips, how you feeling, how you mental, you know what I'm saying? But a little bug in here is there about coming back.
I think this is Benford on Rasul Douglas.
Correct.
So, and there was a tweet from Douglas, like with was it the prayer hands?
I don't remember what it was, but it was positive, whatever it was.
Yeah, it made me think like it's not the Bills' favorite idea, which is what I've thought the whole time is.
Right.
They need somebody. He's been here. They're out. Unless it's just like dirt cheap, maybe go and see what you can get. But
yeah, I look, I'm poking around most days. One window I've got open, even though we're this late into free agency, is guys that are still available at, various positions. In the corner market, there are names there. Douglas is one of them. And one of the things I like, they don't have this for every guy that's still available, but Douglas is one who they do. The market value, like what Spot Track thinks this player should be able to attract on the open market. And Douglas's number is still close to $12 million. Which, I mean, this late into free agency, I want to say I'd be stunned if he got that somewhere. But Diggs did just get a pretty big deal from New England last week, and we were, it was a week earlier, but still, we were pretty far into free agency. So
he found a team that had a lot to give.
Right.
So, and a lot of needs.
Yeah. But there are, Douglas is still out there. Gilmore, his projected contract is half of that, $5.3 million. For Gilmore, he's 5 years older than Douglas, or 4.5 years older than Douglas. That's probably a big reason for that. Asante Samuel Jr. is still out there, and that's a number closer to Douglas's. Again, estimated according to Spot Track, $11.4 million. And that's a very young player that just, at this point, I have to assume teams believe him to be damaged. There was some talk about an injury concern with him, even in advance of free agency opening. And that's a name player that, to me, it's a name player. He's got a famous name for a cornerback. That helps, too. But still, good player. Just shocking that a 25-year-old corner can't find a home. So I'm assuming he's not ready to play.
I'm still in love with the 2011 Bills Pro Football Reference page.
I told him I had to close it up during the break.
I love it. I mean, you got it. Maybe you have to be us to feel this way, but because of you hear the laughter. The Bills have gotten pretty, and it's all just very Super Bowl, eye on the prize. It's all business. Anytime we get back into the drought like this, it's so much fun. Because of the current reality, I think it's so much fun. Otherwise, we'd just be pulling hair out.
Yes,
if we're still going, it'd be the Sabres. It'd be just like,
right.
This is the Sabres drought ago. this 2011 Dave Rayner, John McEntee Bills. That's the last time the Sabres were in the playoffs. I mean, the same year.
Yeah, that's right.
I want to be. I'll never get this. I don't work there, but if I ever got put in charge of who leads the charge at Bills games, Rayner's my first call. I want an entire season of lead the charge where the entire stadium goes, what? They're on their phones. They're guys trying to get him to sing on the field, and the fans are all just like, who's this? And just and have it really just like built up to the absolute. Can we have your attention? Joining us now, a man unforgettable in Bills history.
Needs no introduction.
He needs no introduction, but here's one anyway. As you'll all remember, in 2011, Ryan Lindell got hurt. He filled in, and above all odds, he made 48% of his kicks. We welcome back to Highmark Stadium on the last year of the facility.
Bills legend.
Bills legendary kicker,
the beloved
Dave Rayner.
My working beloved.
Beloved. I mean, every week it would have to be different. I mean, the next week it's Brandon Kutu, and we do a whole thing about him. Just a year of sense of humor. Anytime the Bills are ready for a sense of humor. That's pretty extreme, though. Here's something I think is funny. It's not about James Cook. Here's something I think is funny.
I'm already laughing.
I would like to play this game with you. I'd like to play 20 questions.
Okay. Oh, I hate 20.
I know. I was worried about asking. That's why I'm asking on the air.
I'm so lacking for creativity that I cannot come up with good questions for 20 questions.
It's unfortunate.
It's a flaw. Anyway, I'll give it my best shot.
All right. Well, maybe we'll just sort of skip to the end at some point.
Well, we'll see how it goes.
20 questions. Every question has to be answerable with yes or no. Unless it's like not possible. Like, yes or no questions, 20 questions. Do people still ever play this at parties? No, you're playing like a Jackbox game or an Xbox game or, something else. Probably not much for 20 questions.
That's what I'm going to use as my excuse for why I'm so terrible at 20 questions. Is that I don't play it at parties anymore.
It's
too busy playing Twister.
Twister, right, sure. All right, 20 questions. There's a food that stunningly, I will say, I'm just going to sort of maybe lead you in a certain direction here. Mm-hmm. Last night, when dropped on the floor in my home, Margot, the pug, would not eat. The only other food I've ever seen her, not like spinach, maybe olives, mushrooms, like she won't eat certain vegetables. This was surprising to me.
Okay. Was this was food?
Yes.
Was this a meat?
No.
Was this bread?
No.
Was it bread adjacent? No, don't strike that one. That's not a real question.
Yes.
Was this a fruit?
No.
Was this a vegetable?
No. You're running out of food groups.
What? Dairy?
What's left?
Was this dairy?
No. Bread is the closest you've come.
Okay.
Huh. I mean, it might have been bread at some point in the process of making it.
Okay, so then we're talking about a crouton.
No, not a crouton. You're getting warmer.
Like a crouton, was this also something I would put on a salad?
No.
Okay.
Like a crouton. Don't get too specific to croutons. Just like sort of what's similar to eating.
Was it one of those little what do they call the Melba toasts?
No.
Is that what those are called? You know what I'm talking about? Those little crunchy bread.
That's a bread adjacent.
Okay.
Yes, but no, it's not that.
No, not that. Okay.
No.
How many questions is that
9.
so far? Okay.
But we're fine here. I think we're fine here.
Okay, great. I'm running out of gas.
This was at about 10:30 at night.
Bread adjacent.
Watching, I guess I didn't watch a baseball game last night. I was watching a 30 for 30.
On what?
The Mets.
All right.
Once Upon a Time in Queens. 4 parts. That doesn't count as one of your questions.
Okay, thank you.
On what?
I mean,
it was dropped on the floor.
Pizza crust
at 10:30 at night.
Was it pizza crust?
No.
Okay.
But again, you're around it.
Yeah. Was it actually a piece of bread?
No. It's still not bread.
Okay. Sorry. I thought maybe I worded the question sloppily. No. I didn't want to get hung up on a technicality.
No, still not bread.
Just try. Okay. I'm out of gas.
Fritos.
Oh, that's my dog. That is
so amazing.
Dog, Margot.
I rarely have Fritos in the house.
100% love this dog more than I did 30 seconds ago.
Rarely have Fritos in the house, but made chili over the weekend, had Fritos for the chili to put on top and crumble up. And I just got some Fritos out last night watching this show and dropped one. She comes over. She was sitting with me. She jumps down, sniffs it, pokes at it.
Of course.
Nope. Would not eat the Frito. Would not eat it.
Mad
this dog
respect for this dog.
I mean, it's
right
a
now.
dog. It eats tissues. It eats pens. It eats unmentionable things.
None of those things stink like Fritos do.
And it's just dog smell is her like strength.
That's her superpower.
Her superpower is smell, and she would not.
I'm taking this as
Frito.
Absolute 100% validation
I think
of my stance on Fritos for my entire life, which is that they're the most disgusting food on earth.
Just since we're in 2011 mode here, why not go back to that day,
right.
Whatever year that was,
right.
For the Fritos call.
Margot, way to be, kid.
Margot would not
love it.
I kept putting more on the ground. I couldn't. I sacrificed like 4 of them. Throw them on the ground, and she would look at it. Maybe this one's different, she might have thought.
Yeah, no.
Maybe this one, I don't know. Maybe I'd like that one more than this
feet.
one.
This is gross.
Would not.
Yeah.
Would not. Might have licked one to just test it. Did not get there. So, good for you.
Smart.
All these years later.
Smart little pup.
You were right.
There.
You were right.
That's a great job by Margot.
All right. That's the game. That was the game. That was the game.
Fine.
Okay. Timeout. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
More of Schopp and the Bulldog coming up.
Saw a graphic today on from the Bet Online people. I think it was one of those deals where they track Twitter comments to get a sense of like who fans like or don't like, whose team, which fan base is the most optimistic this year, pessimistic, all that kind of stuff. And they did this one on the Final Four and which team in the Final Four are states rooting for. Would you like to guess who most states are rooting for of the 4 teams? The highest number of states? I'm putting all these questions to you.
Well, it's definitely not going to be Duke. There's too many haters of Duke, I think, around the country. So I would want to throw them out. Florida feels kind of new and fresh. I feel like Florida, and plus most people, you think Florida, Florida, that's nice. I like Florida.
I go to Florida.
It's vacation. It's warm. It's almost the tropics. I'm going to say Florida.
2 states.
Wow. Florida
and Hawaii.
I wanted the other one to be Alaska so badly.
Nope.
All right.
Alaska is not for Florida. That would be a rivalry.
Yeah.
I think that would be a rivalry.
Yeah.
Florida and Hawaii are the only 2 states where the fans, according to this study, are rooting for Florida. Duke, you are right to say, is not the answer. 2 states are rooting for Duke. North Carolina and Maine. I don't know, if there's somebody on Duke from Maine or on Florida from Hawaii or something like that, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
That leaves 46 states
for Houston and
Auburn. How many do you think Houston got?
Not as many as Auburn. The answer's got to be Auburn.
Auburn got 4.
Why does everybody love Houston?
Alabama, Ohio, looks like that's Wisconsin. And we've got Washington State. Those are the 4 states rooting for Auburn.
I would have thought Charles Barkley's having gone to Auburn would have carried a little more weight in this sort of thing with the country.
Nope. 42 states out of 50 are for Houston in the Final Four. I don't know.
How did we arrive at this information again exactly?
It's keywords. It's people tweeting, I'm rooting for Houston.
Right.
Go Houston. Go Cougs. all of that in the Houston case. I don't know. But because they're playing Duke is the theory given by the Bet Online.
Oh, okay.
In the semis.
That makes sense. Just get Duke out of here. The Duke hatred goes so far as to have people rooting for Houston. That makes sense.
Maine is rooting for Duke because Cooper Flagg is from Maine.
Okay.
There it was.
That's good. That makes sense.
Does. Best player in the country. All right. A lot of James Cook today. A lot of other various things. I had a baseball question for at some point. Doesn't have to be today. We've been kind of off the grid here for a little bit. But I wondered, maybe I'll save that. I'll decide during the break if I want to. I've been asking you all the questions.
I should come up with some questions.
All right. I'm open to that.
Why are you wearing a Brewers visor today?
So, yes, Bulldog in a Bills hat. I am in a Brewers visor because I'm wearing a T-shirt with it's got an Adidas logo, but no other
passable.
Print.
Okay.
And that frees up my headspace, so to speak, for a visor. If I wore a T-shirt like I often do with some other, big logo on it or something, some other message, then no visor. You can't do 2. Can't cross message. Only room for 1.
Wait, so hang on now. So, oh wow, I'm in violation today then for sure because I am sports logo.
Absolutely, yes.
Sioux Greyhounds.
You can't
shirt
do that.
And the Bills hat. I didn't even realize that when I did it. But yesterday I was wearing, what did I have on yesterday? A sloth and a hoodie, drinking a cup of coffee. If I'd worn a hat with that, you're saying that's a problem now too?
It's not as big a problem.
Because it's always been sports logos, like I'm doing. Today I'm admitting here, I stepped in it. If I'd thought about it, I wouldn't have done this. But I just sort of very haphazardly I was going through my long sleeve shirts in my closet, and I thought, I haven't worn that one in a while. Let me grab it.
Haphazardly.
And then I put the hat on, and that was that. So I didn't plan very effectively.
No, you didn't look in the mirror.
But I respect the sports logo foul. But I would push back against any other sort of graphic design that has nothing to do with sports and a logo on a hat. I'm fine.
You're walking past somebody, and they've got a sports logo on their hat, or visor in my case, and they've got a big other something on their shirt. What are you supposed to look at? What are you trying to tell me? Oh, you're this and this. You this. I mean, just give me one. Give me one message. Give me one thing. This is what I'm representing today. I'm representing the Baseball Hall of Fame. I've got a Baseball Hall of Fame T-shirt with the names of all the players in the Hall of Fame on it. I can't wear a Brewers hat or any logo hat with that because this was like
So if you had a T-shirt on today, that the one of my favorite T-shirt of yours currently is in play runs.
In play runs. Yeah.
The S in parentheses. If you were wearing that, you would not have a baseball team visor on
Probably
today?
not. Probably not.
Right.
It goes with baseball. It's a baseball shirt.
Right.
So is the one I just mentioned. Yeah. Probably not.
All right.
We try to keep it, one thing. Who knew there was a strategy?
The hat was the last second choice for me. I thought, I haven't worn a hat in a while. We're the Twitch. I'll slap a hat on today.
The morning guys are always in hats.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Jeremy and Joe are always wearing hats, like every day.
And Nate even today had a hat on.
Did he?
Yeah.
Every day those guys have hats on.
But those guys are wearing hats.
All right, let's take a break. We need to regroup here.
Hat talk.
803-0550. Come on in. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
Caller
Bills could potentially be the featured team on this year's Hard Knocks training camp edition. Some changes have been made to the participation rules that came down today. And notably for Buffalo, the playoff exemption is gone. Previously, if you had made the playoffs in the past 2 seasons, you did not have to participate. And for the Bills, they've never been the featured team. They also could be picked for the in-season edition, which will follow an entire division, but they cannot participate in both. And also staying with the Bills, they did announce off-season program dates. Sal Capaccio has more on that up at our website, WGR550.com. Some extensions in the NFL. Cardinals locked down tight end Trey McBride, 4-year, $76 million deal, $43 million guaranteed. Raiders are giving a quarterback Geno Smith a 2-year extension that is going to be worth up to $85.5 million with $66.5 million guaranteed. For the Bisons, no game tonight. It was postponed. They're going to pick it up tomorrow in a doubleheader that's going to start at 4:30. They are on the road versus Memphis. Yankees also in action tonight. They look to avoid getting swept by Arizona. Game time for that just after 7 o'clock. And then up at our website, WGR550.com, in the lead-up to the 2025 NFL Draft, Howard Simon and Locked On Bills host Joe Marino will be posting a number of player profiles and a number of positions. First up is the cornerbacks with Trey Amos of Ole Miss and Siobhan Revelle of ECU already up. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I don't love Junior Mints. I just don't hate them. I don't understand why they are treated like second-class candy.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Oh,
there's a
you don't
fantasy
understand why
team
a
name.
candy that is basically toothpaste wrapped up in stale chocolate is treated like a second-class candy. All right, I get it. It's a good, valid question.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Is there a time to change? You know, the 3 teams I've drafted this year, second-class candy is pretty good.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Oh, drafts. Today's April 3rd.
Correct.
The rookie drafts at the FFPC all start on May 3rd. The Dynasty rookie drafts. Oh. I'll make a prediction. Any format. Only really interesting if it's a super flex league we're talking about where you start 2 quarterbacks. Any draft I'm in all spring and summer, Ashton Genty will never not be the 101 without an injury or who drafts him. Atlanta. Some team drafts him where you just wouldn't. Even then, you would still pick Genty because it's like the long range. That would be ridiculous. That's not going to happen.
Right.
Not even Atlanta would do that.
After signing a free agent quarterback to $96 million of entirely guaranteed money and then drafting a guy 8th overall. I might want to reconsider putting that past Atlanta.
If Bijan were 30, then okay.
Right. Yeah, but it doesn't really work.
Bijan is already. Let me ask you. It's a fantasy question, but I'd like your input on this. Bijan Robinson, I would say, is the consensus most valuable running back to own in Dynasty. It could be Gibbs. I'd say it's Robinson and Gibbs, maybe Robinson. Or it's going to be this guy, Genty. Like, who would you want of the 3? Robinson, I think, has come in a little bit under the radar because it started the way it did. That point about how they used Tyler Algier so often when he was a rookie and he didn't even really get the workload. And then it's Atlanta. Maybe people don't really know what he looks like or what, his potential is.
I still really don't. I mean, I saw more I've seen, because of where he ended up in the league on a team that I despise and don't really enjoy watching much at all. I've seen him play more in college than I've seen him play in the NFL.
Yeah.
And I didn't see him play a ton in college. I've hardly ever seen the guy. The game they had in London where Kyle Pitts caught a touchdown 2 years ago.
Against the Jets?
Yeah. That game I watched all of. That's it.
I think that's even 3 years ago.
Okay.
When he wasn't there yet.
Oh, really?
I think.
Wow.
I think the Pitts touchdown was the one touchdown he had.
Yeah. Wow.
That might have been 3 years ago.
I don't even have the right year. Okay. Yeah. Anyway.
When are you watching the Falcons?
Never. I mean, they're on Thursday night. Okay. I'm watching them. I saw them. In fact, Cousins had a great drive.
The Tampa game.
Yeah. Great drive late. I mean, it was like textbook.
He had 500
second.
yards in that game.
He was a monster, and that last drive was surgical. It was tremendous. I'm not really sure what Tampa was doing, but still, nonetheless.
That game was incredible.
I did. So that's when I will see Atlanta, or they play the Bills, like they did one of Matt Ryan's last games with the Falcons.
And they will do that this year in Atlanta. The Bills play the Falcons.
Yeah. So
what did Bijan do in that game? 12 for 61.
I think I would take Gibbs. I think of the three guys.
Okay.
I just think, and that part of that is I've seen him more. So it's not to say like Robinson can't do all the things and then some that Gibbs can do. I've seen Gibbs play 10 times.
Yeah, right.
And I've hardly seen Robinson play much at all. And Gibbs is still, both guys are still the same draft, still young enough to me. I would take that over a rookie right now. Almost any rookie. Just because. Who knows? I mean, I know how it sounds and how it reads and generational and Barry Sanders and all this stuff, but it's still the draft. I don't know. It's hard to screw up a running back, I think, but I think I would take the young veteran Gibbs, who's, only 3 years into his career.
Two. They're
only.
both two.
Right. Okay. So that's even better.
Yeah. Robinson just turned 23 this offseason. What would football guys do with this? Gibbs 1, Robinson 2. So they're with you. And Genty might be 1 right now. Like he's no one else really. There's an argument, right? I mean, Barkley's old, McCaffrey's old, Bucky Irving. I mean, no, they're not coming in over those two guys. And Genty, without even knowing where he's going, I think it's a 3-man tier for like the running back to own.
But you're saying that Genty will go ahead of those guys in every one of these drafts you're going to do when that opens up? What did you say?
I'm saying in rookie drafts.
Oh, so, rookie draft. Okay, sure.
Last year, super flex, so 2 quarterbacks start, up to you can start 2. Last year, who do we have? We had we didn't have running backs last year. We had Malik Neighbors. We had Marvin Harrison.
Yeah.
We had Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels. Like that maybe is the top 5. Bowers, if you're playing with 1.5 points per catch for tight ends, Bowers that's top 6, right? May, Bo Nix, McCarthy had 6 quarterbacks, Penix. He had 6 quarterbacks go in the first round, and they're like the most valuable commodity in that. So they all go like first round. They're all first round picks, right? This year, Cam Ward to Tennessee is not coming in over Genty. That's how much. It's a pretty good statement, actually. Like it decidedly. I don't think I'll be in one league where that happens.
Yeah. I don't think that's surprising. I mean, it certainly speaks to the expectation and the excitement around the running back, but the quarterback class is not that highly thought of, right? Like most analysts will tell you, I think that like Cam Ward would not be ahead of, I don't know, maybe he'd be ahead of Michael Penix. I don't even know, because that was kind of a surprising pick, I guess.
Would have been 4th at best last year.
Yeah, right. Yeah, those other 3 guys would have outranked him without question. Who knows? Maybe even Bo Nix would have. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't have thought that. I wasn't that high on Nix. I loved Penix going in, and I was glad to see him get drafted, and I'm thrilled he's going to get a chance to play now already. I mean, he played a little last year. It didn't go great, but it wasn't a disaster either. It was just like,
That could be a good question for one of
our
draft guests, is where would Ward have ranked last year?
Yeah.
Even if we knew number 1. Diana Rossini today, it was something weird. It was like, she's uncertain about whether the Titans are certain that they'll pick him. It was like, she's not sure if they're sure.
Okay.
Do you believe that? Smokescreen? Does Tennessee know it's picking Cam Ward?
They definitely know who they're picking, and I think they know they're picking Cam Ward. But I always really struggle with the idea that you get through all this, and I mean, I guess I shouldn't say I struggle with it. It's perfectly plausible that teams are in the process in these weeks here, right? Pro days are over, visits are petering out, like teams have done the work. So now is time to put the board together. But when you're that high up, when you're picking 101, I just think it's crazy to think that they've been thinking about 20 guys, 10 guys, 5 guys. Like, they're not. They're like 2 or 3 possibilities. And so you have to do all the rest of the work on the draft. Fine, putting the board together. But you're the Tennessee Titans. I don't for a second believe that today they're having meetings trying to decide what to do with the first pick.
Well,
I just think you would know that already. But
would you disagree with this, though? How many people have a voice? I mean, generically on a team, how many people have a voice? Coach, GM, owner. Scouts feed the GM, right? Maybe assistant coaches feed the coach. Owner, maybe his kids feed him. I don't know.
In the case of the Jets, that's probably right.
It's Madden in the case of the Jets and that. So you might not have like debates in terms of like, what do we want to do? But you could have disagreement. I think that was San Francisco with Lance.
Mm-hmm.
Because Schefter doesn't get got like that. All the way to the day of the draft, it's going to be Mac Jones. And like people knew that. And then it wasn't. Just somebody came in over the top and said no to Shanahan.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was, the way I thought of it was that Shanahan wanted Mac Jones. Like he says, think about how Purdy plays. Mac Jones is on the 49ers now, by the way. There's that too.
But you can definitely see the attraction there. Similar enough. Not super athletic, not real big, not the biggest arm, but smart. Is going to recognize coverages and is going to put the ball where it needs to be.
Exactly. Just don't get me beat.
Right.
That's Purdy. Purdy's maybe better than that. But that was Jones.
Yep.
And that was Garoppolo, who wasn't good. But they won a lot of games. They went to the Super Bowl with him. Had the lead in the fourth quarter. So anyway, who is each party talking to for the rumors to get out? Then at the end, it can end up being someone else. I think that can happen. And that maybe that's Tennessee. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, GM they're both fairly new. Owner's fairly new, right? So we'll see. Gibbs, you mentioned, changed his number today.
0.
Right.
I love the 0.
I hate it.
I love Coleman in 0. I'm a fan of the 0.
Pick a real number. Pick a number that you can be divisible by. None of this 0. I'm not a fan. Gibbs, he was 28 maybe? 26, 28. And Jamison Williams changed his number.
To 1, right?
To 1. He was in the teens.
18, I think I have in my head for him.
All right, it's okay.
And I think Gibbs was 26. I think
26.
Did you say that? I think that's what I have in my head here anyway.
Chase is 1, right?
Yes, Jamar Chase. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
1 can work. Jamison Williams, it's funny, whenever I think of him, well, not every time, but sometimes I'll think of him and I'll think of Evan Silva from Establish the Run, who we have scheduled for the show on Monday. Because I was listening to him once, and he said from someone else that Williams said in an interview, people called him J-Mo. I've told you this. People called him J-Mo, but he doesn't like J-Mo. He wants to be Waymo because he needs the ball Waymo. So I remember hearing Evan tell that story and loved it.
Must not be an Allman Brothers fan. Because one of their 2 drummers in their original lineup was J-Mo, was his Johanny. I don't know his whole name, but they called him J-Mo.
J-Mo was his name-o?
You said that, not me.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask you, we have a few minutes. One of the days you missed on vacation was a baseball show. We did baseball. It was opening day. It was last Thursday. And we heard from a lot of listeners who told us how their favorite team became their favorite team.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned you a few times, but you should really be the one to explain Boston.
Boston was, for me, 75. I'm 10. My best friend, Jesse, lived 3 or 4 doors down, and we did... I mean, you would have fit right in this group. You would have been a lot younger than us when we were little kids because you're 7 years, right, younger than me. Yeah. And Jesse was, I think, a year older than me. But we just spent. There were a lot of kids. It was a great neighborhood. A lot typical like early 70s, early 80s growing up. Like just football, baseball, hockey, in the street, at the park, all the time. Just great. Jesse would keep stats for our like neighborhood hockey team and stuff. Anyway, his dad would bring him boxes of baseball cards. And so, I never had boxes of baseball cards, but I'd use some of my paper route money and buy a few packs, and we'd look at cards and whatever.
Like new boxes?
Yeah, like new, like the current. Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
Father of the year.
Yeah, right. And so we did a trade. It was one of these things like he always had so much to work with, right? Like he's got 6 of everything, in some cases, right? And like, I want a Jim Rice. I don't have a Jim Rice. I haven't gotten a Jim Rice. I've opened 20 packs. I don't have a Jim Rice, and he's got 4 of them.
Yeah.
Right?
75?
Yeah. And so, of course, he's still going to drive a hard bargain, and make me pay regular price, even though he's got all these. And at some point or another, it made me mad. Whatever. I was 10.
Can I please interrupt you one more time to say one thing?
Sure.
I think it was card number 616, but go on.
Okay. And so that's the Reds and Red Sox are playing in the World Series, and Jesse loved the Reds, and I also at the time liked the Reds. We're good friends. We talked about sports a lot. We just did a lot of stuff together, and the only baseball games to that point in my life I had been to were Reds games on vacation. So I was fine with the Reds, but he made me mad at some point, and I sort of decided out of spite, like, I'm going to start rooting for the Red Sox in this World Series. I liked the park. It was not a hard sell. I was 10. There was plenty to like about the Red Sox. Maybe it would have happened without this flashpoint, but I feel like out of spite, because of some baseball card deal gone wrong, I decided to start rooting for Boston. And I may be embellishing the annoyance about the baseball card trade only because it got pretty cool for me as the years went by. Like, how'd you become a Red Sox fan? Because I got mad at my best friend when I was 10, and I'm stuck here riding an 86-year World Series drought. Obviously, I've not been here for all of it, but I picked a team that cannot win, including 1975 and then 1978, and then on and on you go. And so, but that's where it started. It started with... I'm not proud to say spite is where is that somewhat of the story that you told?
No, I didn't remember any of that.
Okay.
I thought it was about the Green Monster.
Yeah, no, I love the ballpark for sure. Once I got there, it absolutely took. It wasn't hard for me to fall in love with them, but I'm sure the flashpoint of it was October of 75. We're here. You know what? I'm mad at you.
This is how I'm going to...
I like the Red Sox now. that's how I remember it. I don't know if he would vouch for that. He wasn't the one making the big change in his rooting interest, so I doubt he would even remember any of this, like how I became a Red Sox fan or that he played any role in it.
I'm just wondering where the cards are.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was card 616.
Look at you.
It
wow.
was card number 616.
That's a great job.
75 tops Rice.
Great job.
I don't know how I knew that. I thought I heard the number in my head and then thought, well, it was one of those rookie cards with the 4 heads. And that would have been a high number. And I know another card from that area. And so, yes. Jim Rice.
Well, I love that you got that. Oh, yeah. All right. Yep. That brings back memories. The collar hanging out of the
collar.
What even was that? I don't even know what that was. So like a windbreaker under the jersey or something. I don't know. It looks weird, but
yeah,
I'm glad,
exactly what it is.
I'm glad you got a day out of that. Because I love hearing from people that when they want to tell those stories.
Yep.
Like how they got here. Basically.
And a bunch of people picked the Reds. The Reds were named more than any other team.
Wow.
A couple of people with bench memories from playing for the Bisons. My story was, my mom's from Southern Ohio, and we went to see the Reds.
They were a great team.
They were great.
When people our age were little kids. Like, that helps a lot.
That's right, yeah. The whole decade.
Yeah.
I remember in 81, the strike, and they remember what they did? Where they had the strike in the middle of the season, and when they came back, there were only so many games left, so who made the postseason the first half winner? And then the second half, they reset the standings in the second half winner. And the Reds did not win either half. It was the Dodgers and the Astros. But they ended up with the best record in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
They had the best record in baseball in 1981, but did not make an 8-team postseason because of just how the sequences, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Remember just how annoyed I was by that. Could almost never see them back then. Just they were good enough to get on once in a while, but really.
Right. And
you had Braves fans and Cubs fans from cable last
right.
week. Yankees, Mets, Blue Jays, obviously.
Right. And that work stoppage cost them, and then the most recent one cost the Expos playoffs, right?
Best record in 74 and 40.
Yeah, right.
1994, 74 and 40, and it was all just canceled.
Never to be heard from again.
No, right. What an amazing team. The 94 Expos, it totally holds up. Great Pedro, right? I mean, it's just great players.
Pedro, is Vlad there by then, or no?
No.
Senior, no? Right.
Larry Walker, Cordero, Grissom, maybe.
Did he not play for Montreal at all, Vlad Guerrero Senior?
No. Oh, he did.
Okay. Sorry.
I think he's later, though.
Okay. All right.
I got to do this now. They were totally loaded. 94 Expos. Cliff Floyd, Moises Alou, Walker. Lou Frazier. Pedro, Wetland, Rojas, 94 Expos. Under Philippe Alou. Anyway, back to football. Reception Perception founder Matt Harmon joined us earlier to talk prospects, and also Keon Coleman, Joshua Palmer we got around. You'll enjoy this. Matt is really an expert. He's next here on WGR.
Never